You're very welcome to the Overlap Rugby podcast. This is episode 60. I'm Shane. That's Daragh.
How you doing?
And yeah, we're going to be, as usual, breaking down all this week's rugby and some of the rugby from the weekend just gone. It's a pretty stacked show because there's a lot of rugby happening this weekend after a bit of a reprieve last weekend from the Rugby Championship, but it's back itself. We're going to be looking into those games, the Bledisloe test and the Springboks travelling to Buenos Aires. Going to be looking at that at the top of the show before turning our attention to the PNC.
That's right.
And doing individual breakdowns for the games upcoming this weekend for that. And then we're also going to look at the few World Cup warm-up games that are also starting. It's all World Cup time is definitely upon us.
Totally.
And there's a lot of
crazy test rugby season.
It is, yeah. So it's going to be a busy enough show for a busy weekend. And but at the end of it, we'll wrap up with our usual rugby news segment as well.
We will.
Where we round up all.
Before we get started, I just wanted to say thanks very much to all the new subs from the week just gone.
Yeah.
It was cool to get a couple of our vids do well in views, and sincerest apologies about the out of sync audio for the Fiji shorter video that we did, Fiji Canada game.
Yeah.
The audio was out of sync with the shot, which is an unfortunate editing error. So apologies for that. Anyone who wants to subscribe, absolutely feel free to do so. Share, all of that, and especially comment. We are enjoying getting some conversations going in the comment section. We do enjoy reading them.
Absolutely. Without any further ado, bell as well.
Ring the bell. And actually,
we forget every week.
The one we forget every week, always ringing that bell.
Yeah.
There's one more bit of ado, actually, is that we are going to be appearing at some point on this week on Unbiased Rugby's channel.
Yeah.
Unbiased Rugby. Yeah. Doing a breakdown, I think, of the England squad over on his channel. You should definitely check that channel out. That'll be, I assume, at youtube.com/unbiasedragby.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But we do have our own main show to get through, and we're going to do that now because there's a lot to talk about. So we're going to start with the All Blacks and Wallabies Bledisloe. Bledisloe test, which is the last round of this abridged Rugby Championship, but also the Bledisloe test, which is its own special thing. And it's going to be happening in Perth, 10:45 a.m. our time,
Ireland's time. Yeah,
not sure whatever your time is, wherever you are, but
our resolute position on that.
Yes.
Just give
Irish time
and UK time, I guess.
It's going to be ref by Jerome Garces as well, so I predict a bit more of a flowy kind of game, maybe some different interpretations at ruck time. Perhaps it'll be interesting to see who gets the upper hand on that one. But there's a few good little kind of things into. Obviously, as we're doing this, we're shooting this Monday evening. We don't actually have the teams that are named, but we have a bit of an idea. There's a few. Well,
there's a bit of rumor. There's sort of a rumor mill going around that there's dissatisfaction with Kurandrani's performances or effectiveness at 13 outside of Karevi.
Yes.
Which might not be entirely his own fault, but he's just, himself and Karevi are so similar in styles and statures, and there isn't a balance to that centre.
It's also very dissimilar to what they were doing when Currie was on the pitch at 12 and Folau was at 15. Obviously, it's just a very different system from what they've been doing for the last 4 years.
Now, they did get quite a bit right with ball in hand. I know that game was sort of universally panned, but I thought there was good nuggets of positivity with what their backline did against Argentina last week. I thought Lealafano at 10 looked good. I thought Curbetti on the wing looked great. It was great to see Beale back at fullback.
Yeah, Beale at fullback is definitely, I think that's the one thing they've landed on that's bang on. I think the rest are kind of interpretable. Genny at 9 as well, I think.
Genny at 9, of course, you should mention. He was great.
Yeah, but the rest is all still kind of tinkering a bit. But
well, apparently at 13, we there's a possibility of seeing Jordan Pataya. He's been out injured. He's a red centre. He's a 19-year-old. There a lot of positivity around him.
Buzz about him,
and there's a chance that he might go in and get in at 13 for a baptism of fire in Bledisloe. Outside of that, they could mix it up by putting, as you say, Adam Ashley Cooper in, or moving Reece Hodge into the centre and putting any number of players on the wing. So they are likely going to tinker with that. James O'Connor could also play there.
James O'Connor is the other one. Came off the bench.
And there's also the outside chance, I think, of Pocock returning to play. I don't think that's going to have this week.
Yeah, it might be a week too soon,
back,
which is good. That's
interesting
music to Wallaby fans' ears, I'm sure. He is some man for that team. He really does increase their chances like tenfold by being on the pitch.
Totally.
Particularly for a Bledisloe test, I think. Well, Hooper hasn't really hit his own heights at all this
season.
To
be honest, not this calendar year for the Taz or for the Wallabies.
No.
We haven't seen the best of Michael Hooper yet this year.
He hasn't really been lighting it up, and particularly over the ball, the kind of stealing aspect of it. He hasn't been anywhere near as effective as he has been in years gone by. He's still very athletic and he still moves very well around the park and puts in a lot of tackles, but they're definitely lacking for something in that back row in Pocock's absence. You just see a huge void that normally when he's on the pitch, he is the most devastating player they have. Like any team is just getting spoiled by him pretty constantly. So it would be good to see him back.
It would definitely be good to see him back. As far as the All Blacks are concerned, Sonny Bill has been taken out of the squad. He played a full game of pre-season Mitre 10 Cup rugby.
Right.
And
got his 80 minutes in.
Yeah, and he's going to be rested this week. So they're happy with him. He's going to be in their squad, but they're just sort of managing his workload at the moment. And Scott Barrett has re-entered the All Black fray.
That's a very timely. It's a very timely return, considering Brodie's out for them, which will affect things like the line out this week. Brodie is so elite in that area, and
he did a serious job on the box for much of that game,
picking off a lot of loose ones. He's very, very effective at that. So it'll be a different balance to that whole pack. Really will be slightly upset for the lack of a Brodie, which is normally the case. Similar to Pocock in Australia's case, you take Brodie out of the All Blacks and they are a weaker team for it. You can't name a team that you could take Brodie or Talek out of and not have them be weaker. But so I'm kind of curious to see how those packs match up. Things like line out time I'm interested in now. When there's a little bit of upset in it, it's kind of nice to kind of challenge yourself and see if they can actually kind of execute with different combinations.
It's been an area of the line out in particular and the scrum that the All Blacks have been very focused on. They've been really trying to get the fundamentals of their pack play and their set plays dead on. And so they would hope that seamlessly enough the line out keeps on ticking. Cody Taylor throwing in accurate darts.
Scrum time would be interesting as well. I kind of back the All Blacks to get a little bit of nudge on, even though the
Scott Seo is a very good scrummager, and he did another job on the Pumas.
That was what I was going to say. Is just like last week they did look imperious against the Pumas, but the Pumas have serious problems at tight head, and
they do.
They just doesn't seem to be a solution coming very quickly. They can't really
achieve parity in the first half when Figallo's on the field, and then he goes off and it's gone.
It's not a good picture.
That's their own problem.
That's on Argentina. But the scrum will be an interesting battle. I don't expect either side to really try and scrum for penalties either. I think they're just going to try and play off set piece.
If someone gets the edge, they will. I mean, it's in the DNA of a lot of those Brumbies guys in that pack.
True.
It's going to be an avenue for success if Australia can get on top. And the All Blacks likewise are having a greater emphasis on set piece. That I think it's probably likely that nobody gets enough of an upper hand that it becomes a percentage play to sort of keep the ball in the scrum.
Your reset play instead.
Indeed, I think that's the most likely, is that they cancel each other out.
Right.
In terms of the Wallabies, what are they like? Obviously, the All Blacks are favourites for this game. What do the Wallabies need to do to even those odds somewhat? It's a curious picture. I mean, last week, in the contact where the All Blacks have been so strong on the other side of the ball in defence, the Wallabies were very sloppy. They were losing the ball. I remember there was one, Issa Naisarani took the ball into contact from number 8 at one point and got held up really sloppily. They got stripped of ball a few times. They didn't resource the offensive breakdown that well. All of that needs to be much more accurate from them. They need to be sharp in the contact area. Either win the contact, get down, present the ball well, keep it quick. And then the other thing that I'd say is that they're getting they even with Leia Lafano at 10 last week and a better backline, they did play quite a bit off 9, and in the opening week they got instantly forced to play off 9 for much of the whole game. That's not somewhere where the All Blacks are weak right now. We saw it against the Box last week.
It's not somewhere they're weak, but it's also not somewhere that Australia are particularly strong. I think off 9, they're not the best team in the world at that particular avenue.
And the Box are one of them. If there is a team who can break down a tight defence with that kind of play, it's the Box. And the All Blacks for 80 minutes just stood up to it, and it was a bit of subtle play that got outside them. So the Wallabies, it's got to be about speed. It's got to be about getting the ball not outside the first channel into the hands of Beale, outside the second channel.
Beale is their fulcrum. He's got to be their key, and it's got to all be done at speed, linking to the outside backs got to be wide
straight away.
And
even if the All Blacks, they win their contacts, but they actually do resource the width of the pitch quite well. So it's a discipline thing, but you need to maybe flood some of those wide channels with few more players, like a la the French.
Yeah,
they look, and France have caught the All Blacks out a few times by just, because the All Blacks number up, they like to number up, but they can throw it out of sync by just flooding a bunch of players into the tram lines. So maybe have 3 or 4 players in like 10 meters of space. Just on that wing area, and then execute simple little plays, get some All Blacks, get some offloads away. That's the kind of thing that can catch the All Blacks defence, and that's the most likely avenue for ball in hand success
for the Aussies, for the sure.
Wallabies.
Yeah, and it needs to be emphasised on that. Like, they can't go into it expecting an arm wrestle or looking for an arm wrestle or a physical battle, because I don't think they'll win it.
No,
they need to be very, very quick, speed of hand and of thought, and need to try and get through them. And like, one thing the All Blacks have been people have been scratching their heads about some of the there's just the trilessness of this tournament for them is a very unusual picture, but their defence has been stellar. Has been really, really good. Very, very difficult to break down, and the Wallabies will want to be a bit less sloppy than they kind of looked over the last couple of weeks. They seem to be still a bit, even in the win, it was a bit raggedy. Some of their ball in hand stuff is a little bit loose.
We know at their sharpest that they can pull plays off and look spectacular. But so just a few of them would be interesting to see. I mean, the All Black defence has been great, but the Wallabies, they
have a knack about them of unpicking world class defences.
Beale, when he came off the bench against the Springboks, it's just that lightning strike, that one moment.
Great line, great offload.
I suspect they will get a try or two. Just one of those lightning flash moments. I think the more interesting question for the Wallabies is, when they're at the other side of the ball, when the All Blacks have the ball, the All Blacks haven't been scoring as many tries. Can the Wallaby defence affect a similar kind of effort to what we've seen Springbok sides and Ireland sides do in the last 12 months? And it's an interesting question. I mean, in terms of how they approach it, it's kind of an awkward one before you've seen the All Blacks team. Because I think you're going to get a huge picture of what the All Blacks are going to do by what they do in the absence of Sonny Bill with the 12 jersey.
Is it going to be Len Mape?
Indeed, if they give that jersey to Len Mape, I think he's going to be. That's where they're going to target. They get hit. He's going to be our advantage line point, and he's who the Wallabies have got to stop. And you don't have to worry about the offload as much with Len Mape. You've got to worry about stopping him. And if you can stop him behind the gain line, make the ball sloppy, maybe isolate him and let him get past the gain line, and then flood the breakdown with some players. That's the kind of thing you can do if you have a Pocock on the field.
Sure.
Those are the kind of plays that could see the Wallaby defence, get on top and win some games. If it's Anton Linnert-Brown and I'm not sure if Crotty's fit yet, I don't think so, but if it's Anton Linnert-Brown and Goodhue together, that has the potential to maybe be going a bit more wide, maybe trying to get the ball into the hands of Bodie at fullback and into those wide channels, in which case the Wallabies have got to be numbered up, disciplined, resourceful, and it's just got to be about a decent, effective line speed and making their tackles.
Making the tackles.
Numbering up and making the tackles.
Too often, even the line speed can be lax, but there's some sloppy, not hitting sticks, kind of more like hit and fall off kind of tackles that do creep into this Wallaby side's game at moments that can mean absolute death, and has meant death against this All Black side before.
Not to mention just that there's as good as the pack has been, like the likes of Adam Coleman, like they're really going to have a job in their hands just to quell the All Black forward machine that has been sort of crusadersing its way through a lot of these Wallaby players for some time. So it's an interesting defensive job for the Wallabies for sure.
Big challenge put down to them as well, because you're right in saying with the All Blacks not having scored as much in this tournament, it'll be very disappointing signs if the Wallabies are the one side for whom it all clicks and then they're suddenly running in tries. That doesn't speak well of their defence. So that'll definitely be the focus for Cheika, who want to get that right.
For what's interesting about this game, one of the things is that Steve Hansen talked about it talked about the Rugby Championship like it's the June series. After, and then granted this was after the 16-all draw wherein it fell out of the All Black hands. But he was saying we always thought about this as the June series, etc. But the the Bledisloe test for this weekend, they've said they're going to pick their full team. They care a lot about this, and it's almost as though Bledisloe, still in that sort of Australasian area, it has more of a hold than the Rugby Championship in terms of bragging rights. It means a lot more. I think Australians would say they'd prefer to win Bledisloe than a Rugby Championship. probably because they won a Rugby Championship more recently.
Yeah.
And here we have the All Blacks and Steve Hansen saying something similar. So it's definitely
there's no denying the rivalry is real.
A real thing.
And Bledisloe is a great thing.
And to that end, what the All Blacks obviously will know that they've retained the series if they win this week.
Right.
What do you suppose they need to do to get the win here this week from the All Black perspective?
From the All Black perspective, I don't think they actually need to change too much. I think they match up with this kind of more forward-oriented game plan they've been working. I think they match up very well against this Aussie side, and I think they're probably going to be dominant up front. And it's really, it'll fall into the hands of the halfbacks, who they're picking at halfback to kind of navigate themselves around the pitch and just kind of put the squeeze on. I'd say you can pressure this Wallaby side into making loose defensive plays and pouncing with some tries. That's kind of the picture I want to see them setting. It doesn't need to be that frenetic. In fact, I think it'll probably be quite slow at times in terms of the All Black build-up and multi-phase, but I expect them to get the job done, to be honest.
Right.
I haven't seen enough from the Wallabies to convince me that they're going to stop the All Blacks.
Fair enough. Would you expect TJ and Mo'unga?
That's what I was wondering.
Stick with that?
If you're saying the A team, I don't know what that is, because I still just don't know what their best way of orientating that team is. Like you're saying, Laumapi, Leonard Brown, two very different options that we don't quite know which the best one is. Mo'unga 10 with Barrett at fullback makes a lot of sense, but if that's the system, does it make sense to have Ben Smith on the wing?
That's a very good question. Yeah. They're not ready to drop Ben Smith.
No, they're
yet,
not.
But
I'm not ready to call that either. But but if Bowden's at 15, he's doing a lot of that mop-up work, and then the 14 jersey is occupied by someone who is, yes, defensively very sound and one of the aerially great, one of the great thinkers of the game, readers of the game. But he's also a few yards shy of what proper winger pace kind of is.
More than a few, you would say. Like, he'd get beaten in an open field by Quagga Smith. Probably would get beaten in a 100-metre sprint by Quagga Smith. And
that's not quick enough, really. So there's those kinds of questions. Or do you just revert back and do Bowden at 10 and then have Ben Smith back at fullback?
I think they have to trial for the World Cup in the big picture. I know they're in their mind is in Bledisloe, but for the big picture, I think they have to stick with the Barrett Mo'unga thing. I think it's got great potential. I think Barrett as a 15 is just a find and a half because he can really excel.
He's also a kind of a like for like change, because they're missing obviously Damon McKenzie, and they're lacking so much for that. Like he was giving their attack
a bit of snap.
Exactly, and Bowden does something similar from 15. He kind of plays with ball in hand for sure. He's a similar kind of operator in the open space. So that does make a lot of sense, and it's plus if you're two of your foreign players in Mo'unga and Barrett, you kind of want both of them on the pitch if you can.
Totally, and you can mix it up. You can go to a kicking game. You can play some heads up footy. What I will say in advance of this weekend is I don't know what they're going to look like, if they're going to mix it up on the multi-phase, if they're going to be sharper. But for the last 2 years, they've been slowing down in terms of their play.
Yeah.
And we've been led to believe by some sort of in the media and the odd comment here and there that there's sort of a grand plan for them to stop rush defences, and they are going to click and attack, and the rust is going to wear off, and they're going to look a bit more like the All Blacks.
Maybe.
It hasn't looked like it.
Yeah.
This is a week to show it, and I think especially when you consider the fact that in the context of the Rugby Championship, that they need to pile pressure on South Africa. Will be playing later in the day. They just need to better that result. And the Springboks aren't necessarily good to beat the Pumas by 3 tries in Buenos Aires.
Definitely.
So a bonus point win against the Wallabies could very easily give them not just Bledisloe but the Rugby Championship, and they could steal it on the last day like they so very are used to.
Yes.
So I think it would be I think it would be a great game to unshackle the offense a little bit and see if it gels.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, if it's the same slow, marauding, forward oriented style, I can't see that changing between now and the World Cup.
Yeah, well, there's an element of that. Like I there's all this kind of talk behind closed doors stuff, but what you're doing on the pitch, you have to put into practice what you intend to do anyway. Like there's no sense of just like, oh yeah, we'll do that on the night, you know, like we haven't done it in 4 years, but we'll do it on the night. Yeah, it's like, no, you need to be implementing these systems now, and that's why like the Six Nations was informative about the other Northern Hemisphere sides and the styles that they're going to try and bring to the World Cup. Similarly, the Rugby Championship as well. These are they are World Cup warm-up games in fact, but they're like that's exactly it. They're shaping the team as they intend to go to the World Cup, and they're going to play with a similar style.
Not to mention the fact that the All Black trend goes beyond just this tournament. It's a long one. So I'd be curious to see if they can put something together in offense. That said, I think they are going to be too strong for the Wallabies either way.
Yes, yeah. Whether they choose to do it up front or choose to do it out wide, I think there'll be scores there for them. Yeah, and more so than the Wallabies, because the Wallabies, I'd be surprised. I think maybe bar one, possibly two, bit of Beale magic or something, I think chances will be few and far between against this All Blacks defence. I think they're
All Black defence has quietly been extremely impressive,
so
almost
proficient.
As good as the Bok defence.
Yeah, amazing. And I just haven't seen that the Wallabies have looked loose by their own standards with ball in hand, and it's just, if it's a little bit static or the ball is going behind the runner instead of in front of him, it's like the All Blacks will shut you down if that's the case. So
yeah. That said, before we move on, just mention too the potential game changer that the Perth factor could be. Perth is by far the best atmosphere that they get going over there.
Yeah,
I suspect there'll be a big crowd at NIB Stadium to welcome them.
Yeah, a lot of Western Force jerseys.
Yeah, hopefully, and looking forward to bringing the game out there. And that is the kind of thing that could be an X factor.
That's
just
true.
a galvanised crowd.
Yeah, we didn't mention it, but well, we did at the top of it. But yes, so obviously Australia at home, the Kiwis having to travel. It just brings it levels the playing field.
When the Wallabies have beaten the All Blacks, they have displayed, and they have in this cycle, they have displayed, focus and discipline, and that'll be nice to see. Yeah,
definitely. So it should be good.
Yeah.
So I suppose we'll move on. Argentina Springboks. The final game of the Rugby Championship then, as it will be. It'll be 8:40 p.m. our time, which is, I don't know.
No, we don't know.
But it's going to be up in Buenos Aires, an amazing stadium they have there. Tough for the Boks to travel there now as well, and the Boks will have to better whatever New Zealand's score was or thing was earlier in the day. So be that a bonus point try, maybe a bonus point win may be required. We don't know yet, but that'll be a tough ask for them if that's what they end up having to do.
Gunning for their first Tri-Nations / Rugby Championship victory since 2009, a decade ago. So
it's a decade. Wow,
a decade ago. Yeah. So definite motivation there, definite momentum. All they're looking for is momentum. They're loving it right now. There's just a wonderful colour to everything that they're doing. There's such positivity radiating across South Africa and South African rugby in general, spearheaded by this team, and it definitely going to be looking to keep the positive feeling going with some real silverware.
Sure, that's it would be a huge boost to them, confidence boost going into that World Cup, going into that fixture with the All Blacks as well, with definitely a bit of something to hold above them, feather in the cap for sure. But that being said, standing between them and that is Argentina, an Argentina team that have looked sloppy and disjointed for the first two games of the tournament,
especially the last one.
That's very loose. But that being said, we know how capable they are. Like player for player, we've seen the Jaguares this season. What a season they've had. We know that Argentina in World Cup year, it's a dangerous prospect, and in Buenos Aires as well, that crowd can get raucous and can pile pressure on you if it's going the Argentina's way. And the other thing,
I was going to say stylistically, I think the sides match up really quite well for Argentina. They'll quietly think when they have the ball. The way that the Springboks defend, which has been very, very effective, is they shoot up, they get arm in your face trying to shut off the outside, and crucially they have the wingers running this mad inside arc, which has, and we saw against Australia even, the degree to which it suffocates a 10 when they get caught by it. It suffocated the All Blacks for large periods of that game as well.
For sure.
Especially when you consider, like, when you turn back inside, the wall of collision-winning dominance that greets you when you're forced back inside. Teams can get shocked by it. But if you can get outside of that in-swinging winger, that's when there's space. And Argentina's whole game is about putting their wingers in space.
Sure, we saw with actually Australia, one of their better things that they've done all season was that defence that they managed to actually shut down that play. And they did the same in the World Cup years gone, last cycle, where they brought in the World Cup it was just bringing a blitz, and they managed to get some intercept tries from as the Argentinians were trying to spread it wide. But last week it was the same. not like they're just covering the winger and forcing them back inside, which is exactly what they don't want to be doing.
It was like a man coverage defence. The winger was just marking the winger.
Yeah.
So even if there was a 2-on-1 on the inside, the winger was just sticking on the winger. And Mojano wants to take the outside every time he gets the ball. He was never being given it, and he was taking it anyway, and he was going out into touch.
Yeah.
And so from a Bok perspective, we know Cheslin can defend very capably 1-on-1. Mapimpi less so, but still can influence things. He's a quick guy. Are they going to trust themselves to adjust, given the nature of this game, just how the teams match up stylistically? Are they going to be able to change what has been a very set, a very effective defence,
but quite rigid?
To adjust to what is a very different attacking proposition.
Yeah. Well, we can harken back to 4 years ago and the pains of our own campaign, where Ireland adopted the reverse drift philosophy of defence, which is one of the worst, most abysmal systems ever, but did it so rigidly that they couldn't even be heads up about what do Argentina want to do. They want to play their dangerous wingers into the game. What is a wise way of pursuing that? A bit of a rush, a blitz to pressure them, and then hold your width. Don't reverse drift and have the back line kind of tapering off as the wingers are. You're just gifting them yards. So similarly, it's a different system. Like the rush aspect of this box system will probably put pressure on. It'll put pressure where it needs to, which is on Sanchez, who has looked shaky.
For sure.
So that may be enough. But if because what it does with a blitz defence, when you have a team that does want to go wide, it just heightens the stakes a little bit and makes you have to make the very, very technical or pass or very difficult skill. You have to execute it. Once you do, the space is there, but you're challenging the team to try that, or to dare to try, and then you can end up getting a few mistakes from it. But the flip side is you can be made look silly when those passes come off, and then there's acres of space for the likes of Mojano or Boffelli or Tukale to go streaking into.
The other little sleeping option for them is that little kick over the top. It's another thing that the box will leave open with that rush defence. I mean, whether it's Faf or Herschel, as it could be, covering that space, they're going to have a lot of work to do, and the Argentinians tend to be lightning accurate with those attacking kicks. So it's perhaps another reason why the Springboks ought to consider
just an adjustment,
adjusting their defence a little bit for this game, maybe numbering up on the wingers, and I've no doubt that if they do that, the way Mojano played last week, that as effective a defender as Cheslin is, he could handle him. So that's the most intriguing thing, is to see if the Springboks can make that adjustment, and to see if Argentina can execute under the kind of pressure that the Springboks apply.
It's not even if they can make that adjustment. I'm curious to see whether they will or not. If they're going to stick rigidly to the system, that's something that could be perceived as a weakness come the World Cup, because it'll be a bit telegraphed, and there'll be more tape on it, and it'll be easier for teams to isolate.
No defensive system is perfect.
Exactly.
So there's always a weakness somewhere, which is why you got to freshen it up, and this is a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, because it invites it. Because really, Argentina, where once they were a forward-oriented beast, they are very much a team of wingers these days. They are all about getting it wide all the time and trying to score their tries that way. And with a scrum that's as pitiful as it is, that's kind of the way it has to be as well. They're a very speedy, very kind of a very exciting team to watch. I'm just curious to see if they get anything off. It'll be fun, a fun picture if they do. Because I think that should they score tries, they're going to be beautiful ones against that Bok defensive system.
The Boks will feel the pressure if that starts to happen.
True.
And it'll be some learning to see how they respond to that.
Yeah.
It's all been positive so far. They spent the last week in Auckland.
Right.
I remember they were there. The initial squad went out there pre-Australia game, and then they spent that week out there. They were joined by the extended squad for the All Black game, which they went out to Wellington to play that, and they've spent the last week back in Auckland. They've had a training camp in New Zealand for the last 3 weeks, I guess now. And now they're finally out in Buenos Aires preparing for that test. But that's an interesting little dynamic that they've been together there, of all places, in enemy territory. Planning and working. One of the things that I like to see them work into their game is a bit more offensive groove. I mean, they were pretty much shut down up until that last play with Vili.
Yeah. You want to see Vili perform a bit better, or Gallant get a go and see if he can perform.
And just a little bit more shape off both playmakers, off Pollard and off Vili. Little bit more screen variations, some dummy runners, little shapes and structures to put their main playmakers into space and maybe open it up a little bit. They win enough collisions that they should open it up a bit more for their wingers.
Definitely true. Yeah. Like their games tend to be quite closed in their multi-phase. It's a bit more bruising than kind of finding the space. But what you do think is like, with those wingers out there, Cheslin and stuff, you need to be manipulating it in such a way as to put them into all kinds of space. It's
not like you can take an eye off their centres. Their centres are so useful as dummy runners, and Am as well can be a catch pass in a move if you need them to be. Those guys are threatening, and especially Delindi. If you're defending him, if you're De La Fuente or Orlando in Argentina, you can't really take your eyes off him, because so often they are going to use him as a hit-up play. He's a great man to use as a decoy, and if the Argentinians do start to drift off him, you just give it to him and he's going to make yards, and there's avenues for success outside of those yards.
Delindi gets a little bit of flack, but I actually think of all the exponents of that particular line, the 12 kind of crash-up, hit-up line, it's fairly telegraphed, but he is very, very good at it.
Consistently effective.
He gets over the gain line all the time. I still remember that performance against England at Twickenham.
Crazy,
He was just rampaging through the English centres, and it was funny to see. But him and Am is like such a good. You're dead right in that. It's a dangerous centre partnership, and quite a big physical one as well. That you can't stand off them.
No, indeed.
You need to be double manning them sometimes.
So use that. If they do start to drift off them, give it to them, get the yards, and then when they don't, when they're forced to stay in shape, that's when you open it up a little bit and get Vili into the game. And his form, you're right in saying, was not good last week, in spite of that one beautiful pass that set up the try.
There were around 6 or 7 other errant pieces of play that, had he been playing well, could perhaps have led to 1 or 2 or 3 more tries.
He's still the front runner to start, obviously. But I think it would be wise. It would serve them well to put in. Like, there are a couple of other dual playmaker options that they have. One of them is Elton Yankees at 10 and Pollard to 12. Which is sort of a late game thing they can do, and then the other is just a straight swap with Gelant coming in for Vili.
And doesn't change the system too much at all.
I just wouldn't mind, even if they're going to go for their full team, let's win the tournament, etc. I wouldn't mind seeing those two take the bench spots that were occupied by Francois Steyn and Jesse Creel the last time out.
Which was needless. They didn't
changing the centres, and why?
Just to create slightly more space on the outside for the All Blacks,
which is all it ended up doing.
I think you're dead right. We were making that point last week. That would be a much more useful way to be filling jerseys 22 and 23 on the bench, just to have a capability of mixing things up should things be as static as they were last week. If Vili is having an off day, you can haul him out of there. Alternatively, if he's having a great day, then that means that something like the Pollard Yankees option later on becomes a bit more viable then, or you can just do the straight swap.
Pollard from Yankees,
depends how the game's going. But Vili is still very much a fulcrum in that back line, and the fact that he didn't go well last week meant that they just didn't score any tries apart from the one in the the all-back defence, true, which we were singing praises of, and definitely stellar. But like, their system is such that if Vili is off, nothing's going to happen.
Not too much is going to happen. No, not out wide. That said, all of the talk about the backs, the game is probably going to be one up front. The Bucks have one of the most marauding, well balanced and
huge
packs with a load of depth. They might take the opportunity this week to mix it up. I would suspect no matter who they go for in the front row, they're just going to own the scrum.
I think they could probably pick 3 front rows that would own the scrum in this game.
Well, certainly those front starting 2 loose heads of Kitsoff or the Beast. I would like the idea of keeping the Beast in reserve to take on that pitiful, whether it's Herrera or whoever it is, comes on a tight head for Argentina. That's just a matchup that's so painful. It's so painful.
You'd be tempted to just drop balls deliberately just so you can scrum.
I'd also love to see Marcel Coetzee get a run out, a chance to stake his claim in the squad.
He got a bench spot in the first week and didn't really get on till late in the game, and hasn't really seen enough action. He's been great, and he's a genuine number 7, it does change their system somewhat, because they've been doing Peter Steff at 7, which is obviously not a traditional open side at all.
Well, the numbers with over there are weird anyway. Like, they don't. I think they have the 6 do the more open side rule, but then they actually line up left and right flank, which you almost never see any other nation do. It's more about covering the space, and there's one guy who's better doing it on the open side, one guy better on the on the blind side, but in South Africa it's about scrummaging on each side, and so we have a left flank and a right flank, and their 6 tends to do more of the open side style work. So it's a slightly different picture.
It's interesting. Just in that news, it's I think we have it in the other news, but it was good to see that Kolisi has returned to training, which is definitely good news. He won't be available for the selection for this game.
No,
but that's still very positive news. He's with the Western Province.
Fire up the arse of the likes of Marcel Coetzee, because all of a sudden you're really running out of back row jerseys.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to see him go into Pablo Montero just absolutely needing a big performance.
Yeah, because then you'll probably get one. You know, that's the great thing about the Boks, and they're in such a position where they just have so much depth, and they've always been in that position. But Razzie's actually now managing it well. And it means that when you give guys like that a shot, they are so desperate to not disappoint that they tend to put in absolute mammoth performances. It's rare.
That kind of position.
It's rare that, and it does happen sometimes, that the pressure can get to someone in that circumstance, and they end up
not usually a loose forward.
Not normally, no, because just the way they play the game, it's kind of being fired up that way kind of helps. Up to a point, unless they get sloppy and give away penalties, a la Lavanini, actually, for a case in point. The Argentinian pack will have a handful trying to contain.
It's just move everything wider is all I'd say. I'd love to see Escura get a game at Scrummy. I think they should stick with Sanchez because he's their best hope, but I'd love to see Escura at Scrummy get a game, move the ball nice and quick, resource the offensive breakdown well, and just move it a bit wider. But that said, I think while they may have great tries in them, and one of the most curious pictures is whether they can get outside that Bok rush, as we talked about. My gut tells me that the Boks will win, but only get 4 points, and whether that's enough or not, I don't know.
And then the All Blacks will take the championship.
I don't know whether that's going to be enough or not, but that's my gut. I just don't know that the Boks are going to be dominant enough and not leak any tries to the point where they win the game by 3 clear tries. That seems unlikely, but it does seem likely that they'll get on top enough to win.
I would imagine so. I think they're physically stronger than this Argentinian side all across. And Argentina have been a bit too loose in this tournament so far. Now it may click, and they may absolutely blitz the Boks for a little while. And
we've seen it before.
We have seen it before. Strange things have definitely happened, and I'm waiting for Argentina to kind of show their face. We have
the real Nicolas Sanchez. Please stand up.
This is it. Stop floating passes into Brody's bread basket, and let's play some footy.
Indeed.
I'm hoping to see a performance that Argentina can be a bit more proud of and take something into the next warm-up game, but then also into the World Cup, because they really have got nothing off so far.
Failing that, after the Jaguares bump of confidence, it would kind of be sucked out of them if the Rugby Championship ends with 0-3 and all pretty flat ones.
Just the performance element more so than result is something like I want to see. Some of those slick handling skills that we know they have, or some of those deft little attacking chips through, have them come off. It's more likely that they come off in Buenos Aires than anywhere else. So, you never know. But I'm excited for it. I kind of do want the Boks to win, though, because it would be nice to see them take the Rugby Championship properly, and a little bit of a slap to the face of all the Kiwis in advance of the World Cup. But then it doesn't matter, because they're only waiting for the World Cup.
That was just our June series this year, etc. What we really care about is beating Australia like we do all the time. No, it'd be a good feather in the cap for the Boks to go out and win that one. So here's hoping that it happens. But we'll be watching. I suppose we move on. We will indeed.
Move on to the Pacific Nations Cup, which we've been following with great intrigue. We have more games upcoming this weekend. The first of which,
this is the final weekend. And
this is the final weekend.
The game that we're going to start with is the most exciting game. It's the game for the title.
It is,
and it's not including who we thought it would include. Fiji, having lost Japan in emphatic fashion in the opening week, are out of the picture, and it's going to be the USA against Japan. The Eagles up against the Brave Blossoms. That one's going to be in Suva. It's going to be at 5:35 a.m. our time on Saturday morning. But it's going to be available on demand on YouTube, short of a copyright strike. But
that was an odd one.
It will be available on demand from World Rugby, which is great. And Glenn Jackson has the whistle for this one.
Okay, it means free-flowing, sort of.
I'm not a massive Glenn Jackson fan, but he's not the worst.
No.
last week, just to set the picture, the US had a 13-10 win against Samoa.
Yeah,
they rode their luck a little bit. It was a bit of a scrappy game, to be honest.
They cancelled each other out. We were saying it was tough to say who had the advantage in this in terms of the physicality, and it ended up being quite like loggerheads. They were hitting each other very hard, but not really getting through.
The US, the thing that they affected most impressively was their defensive line speed did shut Samoa down, and their kicking game was very accurate.
And catching.
And catching. Blaine Scully was great in the air, but Aj McGinty, especially in that first half, was just
he's impeccable,
beautiful kicking game, which pinned the Samoans back. But if we're keeping it real outside of that, there was not a lot of high-level rugby going on, and both sides with ball in hand really struggled to create and really struggled to play at pace. The Americans in particular were just so damn slow every time they had the ball.
They're very I was going to say methodical, but it's just more ponderous on the ball.
And then their line-out malfunctioned as well. I mean, they kept going for line-out mauls, and they didn't actually get a line-out maul try, which isn't like them. It's something that they're absolutely going to have to shore up for this Japanese game, because it's one of the few avenues for success for them. But everything was quite slow, everything was quite static, and there were errors. There were so many errors.
True.
And Japan, for their opening 2 weeks, played at 100 miles an hour. I mean, by contrast, 41-7 over Tonga. That was
an awesome showing. Like, to back up that performance against Fiji with that absolute swatting aside of Tonga, which is something they should do, because they're a much better, more well-drilled team than Tonga. And they were impeccable. I think their 10 was it Tamura is awesome. I think those actually are the two best 10s in the comp are going to be playing in this game, in Aj McGinty and Tamora. Sorry Vola Vola, but it's just that's just the way it is. Tamora was awesome, pulling the strings, had a lovely kicking game on him. Actually, their scrum half as well had a few excellent technical box kicks, little kind of precision ones that were accurately executed. So their kicking game was on point, put the Tongans under all kinds of pressure, and then they were very, very good at executing once they got into the red zone as well. They were taking their tries and taking them well.
Brutally, as they did last week. They did stutter a little bit at the start of the second half. The Tongan physicality got to them, and
there were a few things that, like, Tonga kicked a load of ball away stupidly and then ended up defending for a while. But one of the things they did find is their crossfield kicks yielded some. So the Japanese defensive system does have them blitzing rather narrow, and it means there is an avenue for a crossfield kick a lot of the time. And the other thing that goes with that is that even if you loosely kick it or kick it long, as Tonga were doing, as amazing as Japan look from set piece and from multi-phase, they're not actually the best at kick return. They don't tend to score as many tries in it, and very often the fullback will gather and won't even beat the first man. He'll just be soaked up into contact. So that's an interesting picture, because you would assume, just looking at the way they play the game, that they'd be awesome off kick return, that it would look like Stewie Hogg in the wide channels or something, but it didn't. And
interesting.
That was an interesting note I was making, because they look great everywhere else.
One thing that can be said for the US is that they're physical and they're defensively strong, and they have a way of making teams play at their pace. A little like Georgia, not quite as proficient up front, but with an actual 10. So there's an interesting trade-off there. But they can stifle a team, and if Japan do get caught in their web, it could be interesting, because they have big turnover players. I mean, John Quill at 7 is a constant nuisance. Dolan at 8 was great last week, but he left the field at half time for 7-star Pinkelman, who came on in a number 8 jersey and wreaked havoc.
Had a bit of a worldie of a game.
Wreaked havoc at the breakdown.
So that's another thing that Japan were caught out with. Tonga got a few good seals. Tonga's best player was their 7 in that entire game. And Japan, they play with such a breakneck speed that occasionally, the offensive breakdown is not as well resourced as it ought to be, and there's an opportunity there for proper jackling to pay dividends. So it's curious. We've seen Japan play twice, and we haven't seen them fail to be the ones to set the pace. They have very much set the pace. They've been at home twice, on a fast track, on a dry track, and they've played at a helter-skelter, very quick game that only they are effective in. They create this chaotic look because it's so fast, and they're comfortable in it, and that's what throws all other teams, and pretty much every other defensive system is not designed to deal with that speed. So it'll be interesting if the US are the ones to, because they've also similarly played out 2 rather slow games, and it's them setting the pace as well, because they were the superior team in both of them.
And if they can wrap up the Japanese and make the contact slow and get the likes of Pinkelman, if he starts into that breakdown causing havoc, Ben Landry, another big bloke, like, are they going to be able to, you know, slow down what Japan have been doing in offense? I'd be curious to see. I actually think the 210s are going to play a part early doors. I mean, one of the things that Japan were really good at last week is noticing when the space was there to be kicked into. They were not afraid to play territory. No. Unlike against Fiji, where they really did just want to rack up points and cause them as much havoc as possible. There was an obvious plan there in that opening 20. Against Tonga, they were more disciplined and more,
it was rounded,
controlled. And when Tonga shot up, they found the corners. They're not afraid to do that either. And I think the accuracy of either 10, I think both 10s will probably get early opportunities to ping the opposition back. And whether they can do that accurately could be a massive factor
for sure.
That and the set piece. I mean, if the US are going to win the game, they have to get the line out right, because that's everything for them.
And Japan tends to be pretty efficient on both line out and scrum. Like, the US will try and get a nudge on at scrum time, I expect, but I expect them to be surprised by Japan's just low body position. And
most teams don't destroy the Japanese pack.
It's very rare. It's very rare that you see it. They have lovely angles in the scrum. They're very, very technical, which I really like. I really like this Japan side for just that. Their technical abilities are excellent.
I think was it the summer of the Lions tour 2017 that Ireland went out there.
Yes,
and that was a picture that maybe the US would like to draw from. Now, granted, it was a tier 1 opponent, which the US aren't. But Ireland managed to exert, even without their Lions, a physical superiority over Japan and ran roughshod over them really in the contact area. That's kind of what you want. That's where you want your Ben Landrys and your Dolans and your Quills to stand up and to get over that gain line, to cause the Japanese some pain, to make sure that they're feeling every contact and you're moving forward in every contact. Then the odds even.
I don't know how confident I am in the US's keep ball for the multi-phase, but the one thing that Joe
They'll kick it
exactly, and they shouldn't. They kicking nonsense kicks a lot of the time as well, like kicking off turnover ball. And,
Ruben De Haas, who came in at scrummy at the weekend, had a decent box kick on him, but was very slow. But he was constantly box kicking. I mean, that is one of their sets. Granted, they're good in the air. Like, I'm curious to see if Blaine Scully goes up against Matsushima or Fukuoka.
Who wins that ball?
Maybe Blaine Scully up against Fukuoka, just in that aerial battle. So that could be somewhere that's
true. But you weigh that up. Well, it depends how efficient they are, but one thing that Ireland were good in that series of just hold the ball. Like, Japan can't set the pace if you hold the ball, and if you are winning every collision, then you're going to break them down. Especially because they seem to be a first half team. They like more so than second. They fade because they start at such a pace. They can't. It's impossible to keep that up. So the second half, there's more avenue for success. So if you can just keep them tryless or close to for the first 20 minutes to 30, and if you can spend more than half of the first 20 minutes with the ball in your hands and just running into contact, doesn't have to be anything too flash, just try and go contact, and don't drop the ball.
Definitely don't drop the ball. Don't make unforced errors on line out. You will get punished. Another factor that evens the odds a little bit against Japan is that it is the first time we've seen them away from home.
True.
They have played in impeccable grounds so far. I mean, they're just
sure there was water breaks every 20 minutes last week.
The ground itself seemed just so well managed. It was a perfectly dry track. Whereas ANZ Stadium in Fiji is suffering some so-so weather with some showers, and has actually seen quite a bit of rugby in recent times. So
it'll be a different look.
It could be slower. I mean, that it looked pretty choppy at the weekend, and I can't imagine it's going to get much better ahead of this doubleheader this weekend.
It's fair. It's a good point. That'll definitely play more into the US hands than Japan's. But it'll just be interesting to see them in a different spot. Adjust. I back their capability to do so. They're very technical, but also a tactical team. They don't mind changing their performance depending on what the picture in front of them is. Like you said last week, they kicked more than the week before. We'll expect something similar.
They have good heads up rugby in them. I do think that speed is crucial. Just the Eagles have been playing so slow. They got to make that pack feel uncomfortable with the pace of the game. And you know, they made Fiji feel uncomfortable. They played so quick. It shouldn't take much to
bring those US boys to heel.
And even little kicks in behind, just turn that pack around, keep them moving all the way through that opening 20. And when
because the US will gas if Japan have the ball and are moving it left to right, and have to chase them all around the park. They won't last the pace because Japan just sets such a furious tempo if they're allowed to.
So Tier 1 sides wouldn't have
No, they wouldn't. This is it. Like if you let Japan play, they will get tries against you. Ask South Africa.
That's kind of Khmer.
Yes, indeed. What a great game. But Japan have just been building. It's very interesting coming into this World Cup. Not least because they're in our group, but they had their best ever World Cup. With that absolute crowning achievement of a performance last time round. Now they're hosting it and they look better than that team. They do. That Eddie Jones team. They still have
Tony Brown, Highlanders Super Rugby winning coaching duo.
Yeah, it's a scary thought. They're getting very, very good. And with this game now, the winner takes it all in terms of they will be unbeaten and champions of the PNC.
USA have never won the PNC.
USA have not. Now they've not been involved in all of them. I know they've had.
They did win an America's Rugby Championship last year, so that was good for them.
A bit of silverware for them.
Yeah.
But their best ever finish is second. So that would be a good picture. But it's going to come down to, like we said, who sets the pace, and you'll see that within the first 10 minutes, whoever's setting the tempo, there's your winner.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. And I'd go as far as to say I think it'll almost certainly be Japan.
Yeah,
I think they're the better side.
I think so too.
I wish them the best of luck truly going into the World Cup. I respect the fact that they're booking the trend of the giant Tier 1 teams, the giant slow kicking Tier 1 teams, and here comes tiny skillful Japan to maybe tiny quick and skillful Japan to maybe make them rethink what they've been doing. We'll see what happens, but I suspect Japan will get this one.
Yeah, me too. I'll go with that. So we move on to the next one, which is more consolation than anything else at this point, but Fiji Samoa Islanders clash. It'll be good. Nice little war dance. We'll have the little standoff at the start of the game will be good. Two of them doing it.
The Sipitao, and I wish I could remember the Fijian name of the Fijian whatever you would call it, the tribal challenge,
war dance,
cultural challenge. I guess is the way to call it.
I don't know. It's on the tip of my tongue.
I
always love when
I love when they do it simultaneously.
Yeah, me too. I was going to say that. I wonder if they do go simultaneously or they take turns.
When Samoa and Tonga did it, they took turns. Yeah, the atmosphere has been sucked out of them. It was best when they were like crossing the halfway line, meeting each other. That's a real war.
That's what you want.
As far as this game is concerned, Fiji are going to be it's reffed by Brendan Pickrell, who I don't know. It's odd to get a ref you don't know. That's going to be in ANZ stadium in Suva as well, and it's going to be Saturday morning at 8:15 a.m.
Right. Irish time again.
Always.
Yes. Yeah, kind of have to clarify that for each of the individual videos.
Yeah.
But yes, it's always Irish time when we're talking about it.
For no good reason.
But other than that, we're Irish, so it's our time. I expect Fiji will win this. But they were like Samoa. Like I want them to pick like say a 10 at 10 for one thing. Like not less experimental side. I'd like to see both full sides, to be honest, going at it in the last round.
I heard John McKee say in advance of this round, I heard he was saying that it's another chance to experiment with some stuff and test some combinations. But I mean, they've had 4 games now.
Yeah.
Like, they're almost there. I think I would love to see what the full time is. I'm curious to see if it's still Vula 10 or if Matavesi did enough last week.
I don't think he did.
I definitely think Bhatia and Radradra and the centre.
Think those are your centres.
I think Tuasova on the right wing, Vitakani at fullback, and on the other wing you have stuff to play with. You can maybe go. I would love to see Patrick Osborne get the go.
He's been good, for them since he came. He came on the other week. Did a very solid showing.
You could have Gonava either.
Gonava has not been involved yet. We haven't seen Gonava.
Yeah. I thought last week's back row that played Canada is their full back row. So I think that was Yato and Mata and your man whose name escapes me at 7, who's been very good.
Yeah, no, he's been awesome. He was awesome against Japan, even when they were losing as well. He had some serious carries.
Amazing plays in him.
Yato was excellent last week. as well. Now that you mention him, he was absolutely awesome and grabbed his try as well. But
and Nakarawa in the row as well. So they more or less have that full settled team. Now it would be nice to see them try and gel. And I think likewise with Samoa. I think last week there was a hodgepodge team. Sayateni, this young lad who looked so good.
In the mud.
It looked so good in the mud. Let him give him, as we said, give him a dry track and let's see what he can do. He could be
the answer for him.
Hope, a beacon of hope for Samoa. Get him in there, put him in the 10
Once
jersey.
he's in the 10 jersey, it means that your Nanai Williams has more free reign from 15 once he's back. Obviously he's not back for this week, unfortunately, but come World Cup time, frees him up to not be bearing the responsibility of playing 10 where he really doesn't belong. He's more appropriate in the outside channels. And give Sayateni a chance.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious to see. We obviously don't have the teams because we're shooting this on Monday evening, but I'm hopeful that they kind of go out there all guns blazing for the last round and try and pick their full sides and smash into each other and get ready for the World Cup.
Yeah, I think that there's a touch of too much cuteness going on.
You want to be a bit careful about that. You know, toying with combinations and tinkering the whole time just means that nothing's settled. You want things settled by the time you get to the World Cup.
Totally. So it's time to start implementing that, and Samoa especially for that. Kunatani is the name of that.
Kunatani, thank you. Yes.
Grant, for Samoa, I'm less sure of what their full side is going to look like. Amosa or Fasaele at number 8, Fasaele captained them very nicely last week. Amosa obviously had a good first week's showing. I thought Johnny Vaili was one of the funnier stories of the game. He had an up and down go of it. The sevens lad, he was taking all their restarts and they weren't going well for him because he was the restart specialist from the sevens game.
Yes.
And then he had that try that was chalked off by Nige in the opening half. And
that was a bad black mark against Nige, to be honest, because that came off the boot.
And coulda, woulda, shoulda cost them the game, but for just how poor they were in the second half. Loads of drops, couldn't get outside the US defence. It looked hopeless. It looked so much worse than it did against Tonga. Passes weren't sticking, drops were happening, and it wasn't even that muddy. And it was very, very strange to see them.
There was very little flow to their back line at all. Actually, I thought whatever they were doing with their selection at that time, it was
even Leua to the wing is wrong.
That was wrong too. He was out of place over
Lilo
there.
and Leua in the centre is beautiful, and they've got to stick with their full team now. And if they do that, there is hope for them to get some plays off against Fiji
for sure. Fiji are loose enough, even though they have been priding their goal line defence and working on it diligently, but there's still tries there. Ask Japan about it, and Samoa like to play a little fast and loose game as well. There's potential for this to be an absolute cracker.
And there's a potential for it to be more useful. I mean, you get Chris Vui back into that side, you get TJ Ioane and Amosa maybe making up that back row, and then you get Lilo and Leua in the centre, and say Tenny crucially at 10. Then all of a sudden you get a team that's going to cause Fiji some problems. It's going to cause their loose forwards some problems. It's going to cause maybe their defence some problems, and it proves a proper test for John McKee's defence. Not the crazy unstoppable test that Japan provided, but a decent test that'll show them where they're at. Can we stop what is a competent,
physical,
pretty much high level? Both they're all playing pro rugby in Europe. Lilo and Leua and all of those guys, they're very, very solid players. Can the defence shut that down as it was doing, prior to that Japan game? And I think that would be something that Fiji would hope for. And then more is the point, to just get that offense going.
Definitely. And they have much more. So they have much more to offer than what they showed last week. It was rather Samoa.
But Fiji getting that offense going.
Fiji need to try and get that offense going. I think they will. To be honest, I suspect Fiji will just about have too much for them. I'm just wondering who they end up going with. I'd love to see, Radradra was great last week. In fact, that Fiji performance last week was lovely, a lovely showing. Granted, and it can't be understated, Canada are rubbish. They are the worst team in this comp, and possibly the worst team in the World Cup. They're so far behind where they need to be that it's pathetic. But one thing that will please, a few things will please Fiji. Radradra performed impeccably well, bar one penalty he gave away for hitting a man without the ball. Some hit that it was, but that was the only black mark on what was a flawless display. He was just effortlessly getting over the gain line, getting his hands free. When he wanted to, he was making stuff happen on defence. He was big and strong, so it's great to see him back in there. The other thing though, things like their their scrum, offensive scrum, they were scrumming for penalties very effectively, granted against Canada, but still not a traditional.
That's been improving. That has been improving.
Exactly. But also their maul, offensive and defensive. There was a great sequence of play of around 10 minutes in the second half where Canada were just bullishly drilling into get a penalty, drill it to the corner, try a maul, refuse to put the ball to the back of the maul, get swallowed up, then clear the lines, then eventually end up with a penalty again, come back down. It was a series of around four in a row where they just did the same thing and they would not move it out. They had nothing else, and it was like the commentators were incredulous, going like, would you try even like a switch ball off 12 or something? I don't know, like just do something else, you know, like try something different. But quoting Einstein, going, what is insanity? But then the Fiji response was not only to shut down every single one of them, and each time it was a different player getting his hands on the ball and trapping it, but it was the same story. And then they went up the other end of the field and scored a maul try, which is excellent. Like, that'll be very, very satisfying stuff for Fiji.
It caused much chagrin amongst the
even like the kindly Canadians were getting raucous at that point. That was the closest they were getting to a fracas. It still didn't break out, like they're still Canada. That was definitely salt into the wound. They were already a beaten team at that point, but that was a very, very good sequence of Fiji play, that even though they weren't scoring a bar that one try, but while they were defending those mauls, it was just they looked so comfortable and confident, whereas Canada were floundering.
Defence is definitely looking better for Fiji. Maul better, scrum better, line out better. Offense still as crazy as ever,
impeccable as ever.
The only question, one of the lingering questions that they have to answer is what they're going to go for at halfback. I thought Signoli, outside of the try conceding mess in the first half, had a very good game. Ran the game quite nicely.
I thought they were just impatient in the first half last week. They were throwing things recklessly, and then when they came out in the second half, that changed and the performance improved. But for the first half, they were just throwing everything everywhere, because they were figuring, this is Canada, we'll just score tries from anywhere, which probably was the right way to be thinking, but they were just getting one or two steps ahead of it, not being accurate enough, and then coughing up intercept tries as a result.
While that was a bad error by Signoli, I thought he went well outside of that. I thought Matawalu off the bench had a big turnover at one point, which was massive.
Yeah, surprising stuff.
And he's obviously, like, we've got to know him for years, watching him in Glasgow. He can play on the wing as well, and he's a very exciting player, very useful off the bench. And then obviously the incumbent, Frank Lamani, who's been a rock star as well, gives them a real headache at scrum half. And at 10, it's been Ben Volavola. There hasn't been much threat to him. Vitakani playing in there for a game didn't really work against the Maori. But the potential for Josh Matavesi, who I thought had a very solid game. There were some lovely little attacking structures and screen sets that were executed flawlessly by Matavesi. That opened up the space. I thought for Mata's try, that little double screen.
I thought his catch pass passing game was great. His kicking game would be my only concern about starting him at 10. His left peg is not great, and his kickoffs weren't great either. But that's the only black mark.
The trade-off.
This is it.
Matavesi or Volavola. So you're thinking still Volavola?
Probably just.
And at scrummy, do you have an answer? Lamani, Signoli, Matawalu? Probably not Matawalu to start.
Probably Lamani. And I think Matawalu is probably the bottom of that pecking order, bar you want him on the bench for certain games. So it depends the opposition. But I don't know how many scrummies they intend to bring either.
They'll bring 3. I'd say they'll bring 3. 3 and 2 10s.
Definitely they're all very, very useful players in different ways. I like Matawalu off the bench as an option for a lot of things.
Not to mention he can cover the wing.
Exactly. That kind of flexibility will serve him well. But and I think Lamani is still most solid. Least well.
They still haven't looked better than they did on the opening game against the Maori.
No,
they still this season they haven't found quite that level that they did on the opening day.
No. And that's unfortunate for them, because it means that they're not going to win the PNC. But bigger picture, they're going to the World Cup with serious intentions, in a group of death. They have serious aspirations.
Nightmarish death.
It's pretty horrendous. Like, even the bottom run, Uruguay are dangerous. They
totally are.
Comparatively.
Uruguay, speaking of Canada, the Uruguay smashed them home and away in qualifying.
This is it. So there's definitely danger there. It's an exciting group, but they really are building very well. They have such a squad that I hope it goes well for them. I did see in the first half just hints of how it could go wrong for them, just the frenetic impatience of it costing them. And you know that if they had just held on a few seconds more, the break probably would have come, but they were flicking the pass anyway.
Maybe that's what the Lamani Vula halfback pairing gives them.
A bit more assuredness and
control.
And
Body at 12.
Body at 12 is another one. He was noted for his absence. He's been huge. Even in the loss to Japan, I thought he was very good. I think Body and Radradra ideally are your centre partnership, and that's I'd love to see them together.
Raya Salevu has fallen out of grace after that Japanese performance.
Yeah, he was a bit all over the place there, but then a lot of them were all caught out by just the speed of that, which it's not the first one that's happened to. I doubt it'll be the last. Hopefully it doesn't happen to Ireland in the World Cup.
No, indeed. But we're comfortable saying that at home Fiji should get this done against Samoa.
In Suva, I think so.
The best of the islands.
They are the best of the islands. And Samoa are very good too. They were not against the US, but I know that they are. They have more to offer than Tonga for sure in terms of just they have a proper squad as well, and they can play some footy too. So I expect that to be quite an entertaining game, to be honest. That's if I was to pick
if the weather holds up.
I would watch those two, the US.
Well, you and everybody else in the world.
Indeed, those will be the two I watch. But I suppose we'll pivot on to the other game.
Yeah,
which is
also happening. Yeah,
it's a match already being described as on this Saturday. But yes, it's Tonga versus Canada, and to be honest, I expect it's not going to be anywhere near the same standard as either the decider between the USA and Japan or the Islander clash in Suva between Fiji and Samoa.
Curiously, this one's on at 4 a.m. our time, so very early Irish time, that is. And it's going to be the other two games are in ANZ Stadium. This game is leading into it, but it's actually going to be in Lauteki Park what's the name of the park? Churchill Park in Lautoka in Fiji. Right. And that I was just Google Mapsing it. Is on the opposite end of Fiji. Couldn't be farther away on the island of Fiji from Suva. That just struck me as very odd. Yes. That they would put this sort of curtain raiser on the opposite side of the island. Nobody's going to go to this game.
I doubt anyone would. It's a very tough sell. These two teams have been pretty poor so far.
Nigel Owens is the ref.
Maybe
people will show up to
upsell.
To see Nige.
He'll try his best to keep it free flowing, but if they keep dropping the balls, he's going to have to keep setting scrums.
That's it. Tonga did get obliterated by Japan last week comfortably. The week before against Samoa, they did lead for most of that game, but they had some, questionable attitudes in it, and didn't quite embrace the conditions in the same way that the Samoans did, in my opinion.
Yes,
and they suffered for that. So they have not had a good start to their season. This is a chance to right some wrongs, to get a bit of confidence, and a big pack needs a bit of confidence.
Definitely.
The Canadian team are there for the taking.
They 100% are. The Canadians have nothing really. It's sad to say, because I do respect Canada rugby. I want the Canada team to be good, but they look amateurish. They really do. They're floundering around, and they have no plays. Like that sequence, I was speaking of it, to Fiji's great credit, that sequence of mauls that Canada tried to effect. But it's like, from Canada's perspective, what are they doing? Not only are they rigidly sticking to it, as I said, the definition of insanity, trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, but also they were just even in terms of setting up the maul, they wouldn't get the ball to the back. So it was just inviting the
little basic things that you want to see for a tier 2 team to be effective at the World Cup. They need to have a load of basics really well drilled into them.
Things like your offensive line-out maul, your defensive line-out maul, scrum,
just ball transitions,
catch, pass.
Every set piece just drilled into them. So even if we're not at our most skilled, we are always at our most alert and disciplined.
And kickoffs are another one as well. You want to see them switched on for all of those phases, and whenever they're not, or whenever you see a team that isn't, it's a very disappointing sign, because you're just thinking, well, what else do you have to offer? And the answer is nothing, really. DTH occasionally, but they're not playing him into any space. They have very, very little shape in their back line.
Not a lot of structure either. The coach, I don't know what he's up to. So to that end, Tonga with the bigger pack, I
expect them to get on top in this one.
They tried their hearts out to get on top up front against the Japanese, and Japanese just being, for small men, so efficient and so domineering in the tackles, so surprisingly dominant in their tackles. But the likes of Fafita and Steve Maffey, they love nothing more than to get over people, and to get over people, and Big Ben Tamifuna as well. like if they can get that pack rumbling forward, they do start enjoying their footy, and they do start, you know,
and they start throwing looser passes as well, and all that kind of stuff, and have a bit more fun on the ball. But it all stems from being physically on top. And there's definitely a chance to do that. This Canada pack, even though they like sometimes look like they're trying to do a forward-oriented game, they're not actually that imposing as a forward pack at all. Tonga. So I do expect Tonga to take this. I also expect the quality of rugby to be rather low. Because I just like Tonga. I'm hoping that Tonga dominate enough to get a few things off for the sake of the game.
I'd see them just change it up a little bit. I mean, I thought last week Halafanua on that fullback just looked like the Japanese really did torture him. But I'd like to see Lolohea get back on the wing and pick more or less their full side and try and score some tries. Yeah, because I think this does have, like, while we can hark on the poorness of Canada, I mean, there's only so much can be said. I mean, for as far as I'm concerned, I'm sort of almost to the point of parking Canada for the next cycle and seeing what they can produce for 2023. But Tonga still can have a successful World Cup if they, you know, get a bit of confidence back, get a bit of discipline back, and pick their best side and get it well drilled enough to put in effective forward performances. They're talented enough, they have a big enough pack that they can compete and they can make interesting things happen. Sure. And so to that end, I think it would be important for them to see off this Canadian team with some degree of style, because every try that they've scored so far in this tournament has been quite tight. Yeah. So I'd like to see them get that forward work done and then maybe move it to the backs and get a bit of get Lolohea into a bit of space.
See a bit of Tongan ball in hand would be nice, to be honest. Yeah. They haven't backed themselves to do it against, admittedly, superior teams, both Samoa and Japan. So it's like, if when you're going in as the inferior team, it's tougher to do that. But this is one where I feel like they should be confident of trying a few more things and having them come off, because even if they don't, they probably won't be punished. Odds are, all evidence points to the fact that Canada won't score against you, to be honest. Like, bar you throwing them an intercept in the first half, they're not going to score any tries, because they're just,
until the Peter Nelson hot stepping machine comes at you.
No, says me.
No. So a probable victory for Tonga, and tougher games to come for them, but a very necessary win if they can get it on the board, because, you know, they need one going into the pool that they have, obviously. I think they could cause some problems. They beat France in 2011. They could cause France some problems. Could cause Argentina some problems for half a game.
They definitely will not beat England.
They will definitely not lay a glove on England. They'll get hammered by England, but they can forget about that. Yeah. And maybe, you know, in a dream come true scenario, they can maybe match the US pack and get a win against them. And I think those are worthy goals. Yeah. And I think they're not out of the running for striving towards them. And a positive step would be to get a W in the column.
For sure. Before the PNC is done.
Yeah, that needs to happen.
Get the W. And
they're playing the All Blacks in a month. That's going to be a bloodbath as well. Not ideal prep, if you ask me. But
truth be told, it's not, because even the All Blacks aren't painting a picture that is similar to what England or France or
demoralise the boys.
Yes, just ahead of the World Cup, we'll just get put in our place. Why? But it'll be a good little pick me up for the All Blacks, probably. But this game I expect to be the least interesting of them. It is a dead rubber in the context of the comp, but it is just another good hit out for both these teams. Tonga with more to play for. Tonga, for sure.
And I'm optimistic that Tonga will get the result and the confidence that they need to kick on and do something at the World Cup.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we shall park the PNC and move on to the other international footy that's happening closer to home, as in Dublin. We have World Cup games.
That is closer to home.
Yeah,
than Suva.
Than Suva, for sure. Yeah, it's a little nearer. But Saturday afternoon, 2:00. Ireland are playing Italy in the first of our warm-up games in advance of the World Cup. I expect it'll be the usual lower intensity kind of stuff that you see from World Cup warm-up games, but it'll be interesting to see some of these combinations. Luke Pearce is going to be reffing at the helm.
Got nothing mean to say about Luke Pearce.
No, he's an
perfectly reasonable referee.
Yeah, I actually have a lot of time for him. I think he refs a good game. Also, the return of one of my favourite players from Italy, little Matteo Minozzi.
Yeah, get him out there.
We missed all season long because Italy were really impotent without him.
It's good news for Italy, because it means none of that negative wasps juice has spilled out on him yet.
Yes.
That
horrible wasps juice.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Seeps into the players'
You don't
brains.
need that. Yeah. Exactly. But I'd love to see Minozzi out there. He's legitimately one of the most exciting attacking footballers in Europe.
True.
And he happens to be an Italian. So, like, Italy should be throwing him into the starting jersey and giving him the captaincy and the freedom of the country.
Posters everywhere. Of him.
This guy is going to be crucial if Italy are to do. I mean, South Africa and New Zealand, there's only so much you can do, but if they're to do anything, this guy's going to be crucial to it.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see him out there. I would encourage them to get him out there and straight away at fullback and get him on the ball.
He scored tries against Ireland. He's only played them once.
Yeah.
And
tries plural, I believe it was it?
Was it? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see him back. But the usual suspects for Italy will be the busiest ones. You know, your Negris, your Pelledris, Bromstein. Definitely, he needs to go well for them to go well.
That's a full back row, but we haven't mentioned Parise. I believe one or two of those guys can move into the second row, and that's how they accommodate Captain Sergio.
Bromstein sometimes does
he
in the row.
But I'd like to think that they could start that trio as a back row, but
I think it's probably a superior back row. It's another, like, I'm not about throwing shade on Parise, but he's not at his height, and he's old now. Whereas those three are genuinely in their prime, very athletic, very physical.
Yeah,
get through a ball load of work. If you were to pick those three as your back row for Italy, it probably improves things a little. Yeah. But you do lose the intangible Captain Sergio buzz, which well, it's something that I think Conor O'Shea does value as the squad man and as the ambassador for Italian rugby that he is. So I'm not ready to call time on that yet either.
In terms of on the pitch stuff for Italy to work on, their game isn't quite rounded enough. They have a decent little attacking shape and structure with Tommy Allen at 10, but virtually no kicking game, which is where Tito Tebaldi comes in at 9. Their line-out is actually pretty good, and Bram Stein is a great Peter O'Mahony roller. He's a good little jackler of the line-out. So he's a good guy to have in there. Their scrum is shaky at best. It can be bullied, especially by a side as elite as Ireland in that area. And then the main area of concern for Conor O'Shea that we're going to look for signs of improvement on is just defence.
It's not even defence. Tackling.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Like, I didn't even see during the Six Nations that their defensive system broke down, because every time they were conceding tries, they were numbered up. They were just missing tackles.
That's why in the off season you would sooner see them, rather than running drills through cones and at tackle bags, you'd sooner have seen them go on like a 3-week crash course in how to tackle. I feel like
crazy. They're the least good. Like, even when you watch, like, obviously they're a tier 2 side in a tier 1 comp, and that plays its part in making them look worse than maybe they are.
100%. That's true.
But you never see the like of it. Some of the loose ass tackling.
On Jordan Larmour in Chicago last year, like, as good as Jordan is,
great highlights and stuff. But it's like, how did
this guy is like 5'6". I don't know. He's not that, but he's like a tiny little guy, and he's just shrugging you off from a standing start, and away you flop. And there's too much of that from the Italians. They're tackling, especially in advance of a World Cup pool involving South Africa and the Springboks, needs to be sharper, and especially in the middle of the park. That centre combination of Marisi and Campagnaro,
which is better ball in hand than they've looked for years, but they're just not as good in tackle. They need to tackle your centres. You gotta tackle, boys. Like, Campagnaro is so great ball in hand, but
he's a big guy,
and he is a big guy, but he's a really soft tackler, very tame. So I expect there are inroads for Ireland, for ourselves,
and that's just something that it'd be nice to see that improve. Obviously, in the context of these games, the teams are emerging from camps, and they've been emerging. You're going to see the first inklings of their plans, and that'll be something that you would look at as something that you would need to see Italy improve on, if we're to honestly say they have any hope, which I don't think we really can.
I can't really claim they want to secure third, though.
Automatic qualification.
It's important.
It's just eminently doable. They have, I think, Namibia and Canada.
It should be doable. So that'll be a successful World Cup should they do that. But you're right in saying they'll want to shore up some of their tackling games so that they're not getting completely humiliated by the Boks and the All Blacks, which they may end up getting humiliated a little bit. But
that happens. But certainly for their own sanity and their own improved performance, you'd like to see something along those lines. From Ireland's perspective, there's interesting news this week, actually, in that their 45-man squad is cut to 43.
With was it Delan and Rory Scannell have been sent home.
Rory Scannell's
you're a Rory Scannell fan.
Well, I think I knew this. We all knew he wasn't going to go to the World Cup.
He just hasn't been getting the minutes.
Yeah, he should have been given more minutes.
You were saying in place of all those McCluskey minutes.
Yeah,
it should have been Scannell minutes.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think if we're to fold at the World Cup and our lack of distribution is a reason for that, that'll be one of the quiet things that Joe might have missed in the last 4 years, was the opportunity to make their centres more creative by introducing this very good two-footed passing, playmaking, hardy, great 12, who unfortunately never got a look in and is now out to the squad.
Yeah.
It happens.
As for Ultan Dillane, I think that's appropriate. I think he's not quite...
I never thought he was in Joe Schmidt's plans.
No. So he's gone, released back to Connacht. So yeah, that's the first of the cuts.
There will be more ones to come.
Yeah, so they only get harsher from here. But it's interesting. Like, Ireland obviously won't name their side until the witching hour, as is Joe's way. So we don't have access to the team right now.
He's actually going to have the boys run out in balaclavas.
Yeah.
It's Sexton.
Big reveal. I'm curious to see who they pick. In the back row, do we go err on side of Ruddock?
There's a few guys who need to run out. It's a curious one because the Italy game, there's only so much value in handing minutes to anybody in the Italy game. The other three games are going to be more dangerous and more valuable in terms of giving guys minutes and chances to prove themselves. There's just not a whole lot to prove against Italy in Dublin. So
a few tries to be grabbed.
Yeah,
Keith Earl's hat-trick,
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see what they do. I mean, if they give the likes of Jack Carty or Ross Byrne this game to start, I almost think those two would be deflated by that. They'd be like, no, please give me the game against England or one of the games against Wales. Because you can't prove yourself against Italy.
All you can do is hurt your chances by having a poor outing.
100%.
That's probably fair. No, there's still a challenge to be done. They have to amend some of the stuff. They didn't put in an emphatic performance against Italy in the Six Nations just gone. They kind of limped to a victory over them. But then it was a very, very poor Six Nations from Ireland's point of view.
And it was coming off the back of a lot of convincing performances against Italy, a load of them in the years prior.
Yeah, so they'll want to remedy that this time around for sure at home and in De Viva Stadium. They'll want to be scoring some tries. I'm just curious to see what they do in terms of the back line. Do they opt for, now that Scannell's gone, obviously the mould of centre that we're going for is very hardy crash ball. If it's Aki or Henshaw at 12, they kind of provide a similar very hard nosed kind of route. And then on the outside of that, do you want Ringrose? Do you want Farrell? Who do you want? How does that combination work? Who are they going for at fullback then this week?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, is that I think the whole thing, I think we made this point around Six Nations time, but it bears repeating because this is going to be an important factor, I think, in how Ireland go. Is just understanding about getting the mixture of a backline right so that you can create space and attack well as being solid defensively and physically imposing. And there is a mixture to it. You see with the box can pick, Delindy and Am, two non-distributors. I mean, Am can pass. He's a very smart player, one of the best 13s in the game.
Similar to Farrell.
Yeah,
can pass.
Similar to Chris Farrell is a great point, and a great defender like Chris Farrell.
Yeah.
But those two are physical presences, both of a similar mould in the centre. But they can afford to do that because they have a second distributor in Philly LaRue who comes in from fullback and serves as a foil off Pollard and everything else and can link to the back three.
Yes.
That's crucial.
Yeah.
Now there's other teams work it differently, and Ireland obviously have to consider the value that Rob Kearney has had to the structure of their defence in terms of covering the backfield and as a weapon under the high ball as well, an offensive weapon that they can use. They value Rob Kearney, and I appreciate that. But in the absence of anybody providing that role from fullback, what you can't do is pick a centre partnership, the likes of Bundy, Aki and Chris Farrell, or Robbie Henshaw and Chris Farrell, or Robbie Henshaw and Bundy Aki, any one of those three, because none of them are distributing players.
Yeah. Basically, by picking Kearney at fullback, which it looks like we're going to do, it makes Gary Ringrose undroppable.
Makes him undroppable and makes him have to play as a distributor.
Yeah, which is very tough because he's actually not had a great season. Chris Farrell, to my mind, is the form 13.
I agree.
But you can't pick Chris Farrell and Rob Kearney and Bundy Aki because nothing's going to be created.
The compromise that they've tried to do is is give Bundyaki more of a distributing role, but he really isn't comfortable doing that. And even Gary isn't ideal with it. Like an informed Gary is great with it. So I guess what I'm saying is you can trust Gary Ringrose and put him in that role, and that's an okay system, especially if you're attacking a team through the middle, like probably they will be against the Scots in the opening day.
And possibly Japan as well.
But if it's a game against the likes of South Africa or New Zealand where there's less space in the middle, as much as you value Rob Kearney, just the way you structure a team, you're not going to be able to attack effectively if you don't have another distributor on. And that's where Joey Carbery comes in. Joey Carbery is a very capable 15. It's to this day, it has been one of the craziest rugby stories of the year that this has, like, that Ireland have had a crisis backing up Rob Kearney. They've picked Robbie Henshaw out of position and he's had a Horlicks of it. They've, you know, dabbled
brought in
Will Addison as fullback cover. Will Addison is a wild card that could serve that Carbery role, but for me, Carbery should be fullback cover and should, for some crucial games, start at fullback. And every time in his professional career that he has started at fullback, he's looked great. Has a great kicking game, great catching
Links
game.
well with Sexton. We saw it up with Leinster that year that we were absolutely the best team in Europe. Undeniably, a lot of that was with Joey Carbery and fullback, both on the pitch. It's crazy to me that hasn't even been mentioned, but it just seems not to be an option in Joe's mind. He's very rigid on what he thinks his 15 looks like or what he wants Joey doing.
That's the thing, is I'd love to see. I think it would also free us up to pick an extra out half, which would be important to give Johnny some rest minutes if you can have Carbery in as a back three cover. So then you could maybe let Conway go or someone like let them cut them from the squad instead of the extra 10. So you could bring Jack Carty and afford Johnny some rest minutes if he needs them. Doesn't have to be in the squad every week. So I think that's vital as well. So there's a lot of reasons why I'd love nothing more than to see, more than any other selection, Joey Carbery at 15.
This side of the World Cup, just
this week, give him minutes, because that's one thing. Like we say, the Italian minutes aren't valuable, but just getting him in that 15 jersey would be great. I'd love to see it.
Now, that being said, I think you're not going to see it.
Probably not.
I think that's actually far removed from what the plan is, and we're going to go full steam ahead with the current system into the World Cup. And you know, may the chips fall where they may. But you're right in saying it is one of the more baffling things, and it's more baffling that I just don't hear it said more often. Because like he did literally look his best ever at 15 in a blue jersey for Leinster. That's his best ever games have come with that. So I don't know.
So the idea that he's just not ever a fullback ever again because he moved to Munster, and that's just been final for everybody, is very strange. And that would be something that I'd love to see. I thought you mentioned Rhys Ruddock. I think it would be nice to see him get a chance to stake a claim before they cut either him or Jordy Murphy. I'd like to see both of those guys get a game.
Oh no, here's one that and you want to see Joey Carbery named at 15. This is what I like. I was very encouraged off the ball. Jamie Heaslip had an interview where he was just kind of threw it in there, going like with Conan at number 8, and they were like, oh, you're picking Conan at number 8? And Jamie Heaslip, one of, if not probably the best number 8 Ireland have ever produced, was just like, just kind of taken aback by it. Well, like, obviously Conan's a really good rugby player. CJ's not. So I would argue not cutting one of Jordy and Ruddock, but actually just not bringing CJ at all. That's what I would like to see happen. Now, that's again similar to the Joey thing. I suspect that's not going to happen. I think that one of those boys is going to be not on the plane.
It's a curious. I definitely don't devalue CJ to the extent that you do. Like I appreciate what you're saying, which is that he's very rigid. He doesn't have any footwork. Doesn't have great hands. Doesn't really pass the ball.
Doesn't read the game.
Can be huge on defense.
Can be big on defense.
Can be huge as a physical presence. It's sort of like your Eben Etzebeth critique, where you're not a big Eben Etzebeth fan, and I can see why. But sort of like that, in the same Big Safa kind of way. He has a way that he can influence games with raw physicality and work rate that has potentially a place. And certainly I think over the last 4 years where we've been with him, there's no chance that they're going to cut him from the squad. He's going to be in there somewhere. That said, I agree with you that I think Jack Conan should take the 8 jersey off.
Jack Conan should have the 8 jersey automatically, but I think Jordy Murphy's a better option at 8 than CJ as well. That's my point. Jordy Murphy's a better footballer all round and gives you options because you can cover 7 as well.
Aren't you, like, if you phrase it a different way, aren't you more likely to be bullied in that position?
I'm not entirely sure. No, if Ruddock's there, no.
No, but if Jordy Murphy is, if Jordy Murphy might be a better 8 going forward, But going backwards, I think CJ has as many big steals in him as Geordie, and I think CJ has more dominant tackles in him than Geordie.
Possibly slightly more dominant tackles.
Slightly, he would have more dominant tackles.
But I'm picking a more balanced back row where I'm trusting Josh at 7 and Peter O'Mahony to be a nuisance all along. And I think it's a much better back row. I have no time for number 8s that can't play football. That's my problem. Like Kieran Reid was the greatest number 8 for years, and then his competition were the likes of Jamie Heaslip or
Toby Faletau,
Talupi Faletau, or Sergio in his prime. Say, what is the common trend with all of these world class number 8s is that they're wonderful footballers.
Dwayne Vermeulen is a magnificent number 8 without being a wonderful
Not
footballer.
A wonderful footballer, but he's a better footballer than CJ.
Yeah, but he's Dwayne Vermeulen.
He's still Dwayne Vermeulen. Yeah. Like, no, I'm not giving you that. Like, CJ is not Dwayne Vermeulen.
Shane feels passionately about this.
I feel passionately about this because I just don't like seeing him in there because I think there are just much better options. And it means that, like you're saying, like you have it phrased in the notes here that Ruddock and Murphy are fighting for one place on the plane.
They are.
And I'm like,
they are.
Why? Just leave CJ at home and bring both of them.
Yeah.
You know, that's my thing. But aside over, that's my take on it.
They are.
May the comments fall as they may.
And they will, Shane.
Yeah.
They will. They'll get the Munster fans after you.
Yeah, I know.
You don't know what hit you. So that's a curious point. And outside of that, I think it's hard to say what Ireland are going to pick. I think even regardless of what the selection is, I would suspect a forward-oriented performance. I would expect dominance at the scrum.
Yeah.
And I think what we'd be hopeful to see is some better attacking shape. I think that's the most... Well, like for Italy, the most crucial thing that you want to see them do is get their defence right. For Ireland, the most crucial thing that they need to improve of. You're not going to learn anything about their forwards in this game. You're not going to learn anything about their back row, their scrum, their rucks. Just not going to learn. Are they going to implement some better attacking systems and shape? That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see on Saturday.
For every Irish fan, that is the real bugbear and the question mark, because the Six Nations was so shocking, really. Well, just very, very disappointing. But also, even the mould of the success that came in 2018 was not
missing a dynamic.
Missing a dynamic for sure, and it's what you were isolating at the very start, talking about that Rob Kearney axis. It's just, there's not a second distributor there, and as good as Murray and Sexton are when they're on form, it's still not enough to just be relying on the two of them. You need an extra playmaker in there.
You do. You need someone to link up with the back.
Yeah, and it's not good enough to have Rob Kearney be undroppable, and then therefore Gary's undroppable even though he's not in great form.
Yeah, you have to be able to mix it up.
You need to be a bit more flexible in that.
Balance.
Yeah.
Also, I'd love to see Jordan Larmour get a run out just because he always scores nice tries against Italy.
He does,
actually.
actually.
See nice tries.
Against Italy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, we do. Mind you, Keith Earls always scores tries against Italy as well.
Keith Earls hasn't scored a try in years.
He'll pull one out of the bag against Italy, though.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, I would actually be love to see Larmour get a go at 11, and then on the other wing, do you go with Jacob? Maybe give someone else a run out. Who else are vying for those jerseys out there?
Conway's one.
Conway is one.
He's put his hand up, yeah.
Yeah.
And Addison is the other, I think. Addison would be an interesting wild card. Short of seeing Joey at 15, seeing Addison at 15 would be interesting. Because while I prefer Joey as an option, Addison can feature in that distribution role.
Yeah.
He's a great wild card for the World Cup squad because he can play 13 as well if you need him.
He can. I'd rather he didn't for Ireland, just because defensively. I think he's very soft tackler. Actually, like we were talking about with Campagnaro, he just, as far as, well, he's better. He does stick his hits, but none of them are dominant. He goes backwards in the collision a lot of the time from 13.
Well, certainly from the attacking perspective, Addison has the potential to be a bolter that could spark up the offense. We're also likely to see John Klein.
We are, this week perhaps as well.
I don't know if he'll make the squad.
I can't imagine he will. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of depth in that row.
For me, there's just an incumbent foursome that can't be infringed on.
At all. Yeah, and that's why Ulton Delan being cut wasn't too surprising at all. And I think John Klein is probably.
It's Ty Burns' spot he's after.
Not a chance.
No way.
He doesn't have anywhere near what Ty Burn has in terms of the options he gives you, and Ty Burn can play 6 as well. No. No.
Dismissed.
Dismissed. Sorry, Sean. Like, Sean is a fine player. He's a hardy book, but he does have a bad habit of just kind of going absent for periods of games when he's rather necessary. So I'm happy with that foursome. Just to name them, yes, you're James Ryan, Dev Toner, Ian Henderson, and Ty Burn.
Yeah.
Four very, very solid row options.
I guess we don't really need to say it, but Ireland, we expect to take this one.
I expect to take this one, probably by around a disappointing 20 points.
Okay, that's not the most disappointing, but I can see how it might be. There's that. That's
my take on it. But we'll be more interested in how it goes, as is the case with all of these warm-up games. It's not as even the result that it's about, it's more the picture that we're seeing, because this is the first insight we're going to get into what the grand plans are from both Schmidt's perspective and Conor O'Shea's.
100%.
With that, I suppose we will move on to the other warm-up game which is going on, which is between England and Wales, which is a curious prep that
Wales playing England twice and Ireland twice in advance of playing Fiji and Australia is strange.
Nuts. It's actually the silliest thing, because the other group in that, or the other team in that group, you have Georgia. It's good prep for
decent prep for Georgia.
But not even Uruguay. Not that they're worried about Uruguay, but none of those teams play the way these teams do. So I don't understand. Maybe it's just convenience and money.
The great clashes have a nickname. Like Le Crunch. But of this one, for me, England-Wales is just injury fodder.
It is. This is such a dangerous game for both squads. It's just they're gonna knock lumps out of each other, aren't they? And they're gonna go into it thinking that maybe they won't be as mean and try not to, but
then they'll be singing their anthems.
Whistle will go, and then they're gonna lay into each other as they always do. The England and Wales for the last few years has always been a very, very physical, defensive, narrow, bruising encounter always. So I imagine this will be the same.
They're seriously competitive. Welsh jerseys up for grabs. Like, I was reading a Wales Online article that they had up about their selected squad, and I was just noticing the amount of players who were so good in 2018 for the Scarlets that were missing out on the squad. Patchell not in, Scott Williams not in, James Davis not in their selection, that is. But I'd love to see, and Steph Evans was the other one as well. He's fallen out of favour. Obviously, we know that the incumbents, the Grand Slam winning team, I think I'd be surprised if anything is going to shift dramatically from that. You could see Bigger getting the 10 jersey, maybe. But for the time, I
liked what they were doing. To be honest, Danskin was good.
They were very, very physical. They were extremely disciplined. They defended magnificently for the whole tournament, and were ruthless when they had to be. And
executed very well. Josh Adams still highlighted the tournament.
But I would like to see those boys that I mentioned get a run out and get a chance to stake a claim at the jersey. I mean, there are some very tough fringe decisions to be made. Even Jake Ball could not make it in, and if you wanted to move Aaron Shingler from the back row to the second row, which apparently there's rumours in the mill
that's what he's going to do by way of Fiji-wigginess to try and bolster.
Shingler is a giant man.
He is. But he is also a back row.
So it's going to be about Wales getting their physicality and their general versatility. I think versatility was the thing we'd coined about them from the Six Nations. Just
they play many different styles. They are a very flexible team. They can go to
occasionally
different places.
For all of the structure and physicality that they have and defensive brilliance, they do occasionally whip out an old inklings of their roots from the 70s and can execute, and that's where the likes of Steph Evans comes into it.
For sure.
And I wouldn't mind to see them maintain that true line, just a little bit of we can score off turnover ball, because we're still Wales. But I don't know what kind of team they'll pick, but I'd like to see them go a little more experimental. Maybe put Scott Williams and Owen Watkin together in the centre.
I wouldn't mind seeing that, because I think only one of them is probably going to go to the World Cup.
Another one, Sophie's choice, and put. I would, for this game in Twickenham, make it about the fringe players. And the fringe player. The thing about Wales is that they've such depth that they've played these players before, and they won't change dramatically how they play, and you'll find that the standard won't dip too much either.
Similar to what the Springboks did in the first round against the Wallabies. They can pick a B team and trust it, and it's disparaging to call it a B team. It's just an alternate team.
Patchell, Scott Williams, and Owen Watkin in that 3/4 line. I think that would be super interesting, with maybe Steph Evans and Jonah Holmes on the wings, and in maybe Halfpenny and fullback then.
Oh yes, Halfpenny's back in the mix.
Actually, you could put Gareth Hanscom at 10 and Patchell at fullback, or vice versa as well, if you still wanted to be cute with it, because they still have that option about them as well.
There's just a lot to be said for bringing Patchell.
I think so. That article from Wales Online had dropped Patchell, and he was one that I was thinking, hang on, he changes.
Anscombe's still a relatively recent experiment at 10, and if he goes wrong, and then you're trusting Biggar, like Biggar is not infallible as good as he is.
Temperamental man.
He's temperamental for sure. There's a bit more flexibility when you have those options. Like we were talking about during the Six Nations, we just don't know who their number 110 is. They have many of them, and they seem to be able to rotate them in and make the game not entirely about that. It's actually less. It would certainly be more of an issue for a team like Ireland, who play almost exclusively through 9 and 10. You need to know who your 10 is. Whereas Wales are a bit more free flowing than that. And versatile is still the word that springs to mind with this
games to different places, score tries sometimes. But one of the things that they did in the Six Nations is just take 3-pointers on every occasion and rack up a score. It's the kind of thing you have the luxury to do when you can really back your defence and your exit. You're not making it as much of a risk to bring the ball back into your own half. They're well drilled in everything. They're everything Canada aren't.
Precisely. They do the basics very, very well, and not just 1 to 23, it's 1 to like 41 that they're all very, very proficient on that.
That said, do you see them? I think mostly, for the most part, this side is going to be about for Gatland finalising his squad and everything else, and obviously getting the boys back up to speed after a month of flogging and cryogenics and cryotherapy and whatever it is up in the Swiss Alps. Whatever.
Mad crowd.
Yeah, they've been worked to buggery for the last month, and now it's time to play a bit of rugby again. But so there's fine tuning and all of that to get back to speed on, but mostly this is about squad selection. But it's still a trip to Twickenham. Yeah. Do you see them gunning for this? Do you see them winning it? Do you see them shipping a score? What are England going to bring?
England are a more interesting one. I don't know if England are going to go all guns blazing, picking Farrell and a few other heads in the backline to try and put a score on, or are they going to give forward looking at? Are they going to give little Marcus Smith a go at some point?
Apparently, there's quite a bit of history I was reading about this fixture. That when they have these double headers as a World Cup warm-up, they tend to stack their squad with their first team for the home fixture and experiment away from home. So if that trend continues with England, you would expect the full boys, your Billy Vunipolas, your Maro Itojes, your Owen Farrells, your who's who of world-class players.
But not Alex Good, who's the best player in Europe, but also not Danny Cipriani, who's the best player in the Premiership this year.
Brad Barrett either. There's plenty that are curiously missing. Chris Ashton. There's been some. The prep has been for the most part marred by strange selection calls from Eddie Jones, and then taking like Thorley out of the squad, and then he's back in the squad, and there's been weirdness afoot as far as the
Thorley I don't think is getting on the plane by the sounds of it.
It doesn't look likely, and that's a mistake. But,
I know you're good for him to be on there as a bolter. Would you like to see him play this week? Yeah, get him in there. Well, yeah, I know.
I see him play all the time.
11 jersey on him. Or 14. Is he 14 normally?
Well, no, he's normally 11, but nobody's touching Johnny May's 11 jersey.
I suppose that's true. But yeah, that would be two dangerous wingers. But I do expect England to probably win it. Although it may go the same way it's been going the last few years. England will be 12-6 up till the very end, and then they'll leak a try and lose.
As they consistently do, They always fool themselves at some point in the second half into thinking they're comfortable. Like they do enjoy some dominance in the first half, and they're like, yeah, we are going to beat Wales. That's good, well done, boys, we're beating Wales. They've gone and scored. And that's a constantly happening thing. The thing about Wales is that you just make you fight for every point. So,
and they nick a try when it's going. If there's a try going, they'll grab it with both hands, which is great. They match up really well. I expect they're going to knock lumps out of each other. It could be a very, very dangerous fixture for both of them in terms of
injuries.
Key men go down. If you have the first 10 minutes and Farrell's on his knees, that's not a good picture.
Would you stick with? I know Manu Tuilagi's form was great in the Six Nations and then was absent for Leicester, and there was talk that he wasn't even going to make the squad apparently, that I was reading about. That's pretty out there. I was reading that from Stephen Jones, so take it with a grain of salt. Would you stick with the Slade Tuilagi partnership? That was the one thing that shored up their leaking 12 channel defensively. The Delindy gate where every 12 crash ball. It wasn't even Delindy did it, but then the week after the Italians did it as well. Japan's 12 did it as well. It was it was all season in 2018,
and that was Ford Farrell, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's what they were doing. Yeah. Yes, the forward Farrell axis.
Could be the Farrell good axis in a just world.
In a Sarri's world.
In a Sarri's world.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I expect that pairing will make an appearance again, possibly this week. I think that is their best centre pairing.
Yeah. I think Jonathan Joseph at his best has been up there, and maybe they'll throw him in at 13 just to see what he can do, if he can still do it.
I think Slade's better than him.
No, I agree.
Truth be told, has a better boot for one thing, but also is a good reader of the game. Surprisingly physical. I would sooner see Lazowski in there than
but
Lazowski's not in the squad either. But then I'm pining for Sarries in here. But no, I think that is their best, most English looking 12, 13. It gives Farrell a proper 10 role, and it gives him a useful man outside to hit up, a la Delindy, just have Tuilagi smash up. And with Slade, then you have another very, very capable distributor who's also he's capable of cutting a line.
A very good offensive kicker from football as well.
Yeah,
and a
left peg as well. So it's forwards right, or Farrell's right and Slade's left. I love the balance of their back line with Slade there.
Yeah.
So actually, I would
much more balance with Slade there. That's true. I just don't think they have any depth at 12. The other 12s in the squad are Pierce Francis from Northampton and Ben Teo.
Good God.
Yeah.
And
Tuilagi's not in form, so they're going to try and play him into form, I think. But that's one area where it could be concerning for them.
Yeah. And it's them shooting themselves in the foot, because you could always pick up the phone and call Brad Barrett, and
he's waiting while
you get, he'll do a job.
Yeah.
But or Tompkins is also class.
Yeah, or Lazowski.
It's probably a year too early for Tompkins, but I'm just going what are you doing? Why is Ben Teo there?
Yeah, well, that's the curiosity.
Why is he there? I just don't understand. Never have I understood. We're Leinster fans who were exposed to Ben Teo from the very start of his Union career, and to my mind, he's always been meh. Just a meh 12 who belongs in a club somewhere, hitting up back walls. You okay there?
I'm gone.
Spluttering at the thought.
I'm so hurt by your words on poor Ben Teo.
Yeah, is that right? I'm taking it personally.
No, I just thought the other thing is that it's going to be fun to see Billy Vanapola and Maro Itoje in action, because those are really
it's just
players.
Fun to watch them play the game.
100%. And there's definitely going to be things to be learned and egos to be bruised by who comes out on top of the equations.
In terms of England will definitely have a bone to pick based on what happened in the Six Nations, and how their Six Nations ended from where it once was, and the dizzy heights that they were on after week 1.
The definite Grand Slam that was coming.
I know
for them.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that Wales just beat them out the gate. Which is exactly what they did. Are they going to persist with the attacking kicks to Johnny May? Probably somewhat, but are they going to kick away as much possession as they did against this Welsh team? I'm not entirely sure. It'll be interesting to see how they approach this.
And a necessary hit out for much of that forward pack, I would say. England with their full team at home in Twickenham. Is that who you're backing to win?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to get the result. I think Wales will be combative. That would be competitive.
Aren't Wales on a mad long test victory streak
over England?
No,
in general. Oh, they might be actually. Yeah.
Looking to match what was done prior by England and the All Blacks, I thought. So I mean, as much as we could say England might get the better of this one, it's been a long time since Wales lost
a game. It's true. Yeah, and they can play in many ways, in many places.
They can find wins from anywhere.
They can get the Twickenham jitters sometimes, though. They're guilty of that sometimes, same as other teams. I'm backing that thought that England will just want it a bit more, perhaps, than Wales, and I think Wales will be probably treating it with a bit more of a ponderous nature, trying to implement certain combinations
and finalise their squad.
Yeah, this is it, because they have such a thing to pick from that they really don't know certain aspects. There are jerseys up for grabs in the Wales camp for 100%, sure. Whereas it feels more in England that Eddie Jones kind of has his plan in mind. He's picked everyone already, and it's all a bit of a...
No amount of evidence will convince him not to do what he's done.
Exactly. Well, it seems bonkers that Alex Good and Cipriani...
It feels like he made the plan 2 years ago and he's sticking with it.
Yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, that's what I predict for that one, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
Maybe like 5 points. It could be a good game.
I think it'll definitely be a good game.
I'm wondering who's going to go down. There's definitely going to be at least one World Cup ending injury in this game.
Yeah.
I don't know who it's going to be. I hope it's not Farrell.
Rob Evans.
You're saying
Rob.
You're saying Rob Evans. Going to go out on a limb and say Rob Evans.
Yeah,
your World Cup's over.
Kyle Sinclair is going to stamp on his head.
Yeah. And that'll be how Wales win the game. England were winning until Kyle Sinclair stamped on his head, got red carded, and game over. Yeah. Okay, I can see
Rob. I hope it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen either. Touch wood. But I do predict that at least one person from the team is going to go down.
Yeah,
because that's just the nature of these guys. And I think Ireland are going to be in for it as well because we're playing those. But I just think it's nuts that we're all playing each other, knocking lumps out of each other this side of the World Cup.
Yeah,
seems
especially
crazy.
for Wales because it's such inadequate prep for what Australia and Fiji will bring.
Exactly. Yeah,
but I digress.
Anyway, looking forward to it. Anyway, the World Cup warm-up's starting. It's definitely getting to World Cup time.
Definitely getting there.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's only a couple of months away.
Less than next month.
That's exciting thought. Yeah. So this is the first step towards it, and exciting times.
Awesome.
So I think we'll move on then to our last segment of the show, which is our rugby news of the week.
Yep.
And there was a bit of news this week. The best of the news was one that I mentioned in the South African section, but Kolisi returns to training.
He's training with the Western Province in the Currie Cup, but that's massive news. Great to see. This Captain Kolisi back for the box. He's going to be back for the World Cup. It seems like it was all subterfuge and lies that he was going to miss it, and he will miss the Rugby Championship. They're not going to obviously. He's not in the squad this week, and they probably won't pick him for the Argentina game next week. But he'll come back in, and even as a figurehead, such a great guy to have in the dressing room.
Yeah,
and quietly, one of the best flankers in the world when he does get on the pitch and he's playing well.
Yeah.
So this is awesome news. I'm delighted to see it.
Yeah. And, even though he was one of the best water boys you'll ever see.
He was. He did as good. I mean,
the guy can do no wrong.
So you think there's a limited number of ways a person can excel, and then you watch see a Kolisi be a water boy.
And you're like, wow.
And to be fair to him, he was given instructions. He was buoying up the boys.
Pats on the
he was
back,
getting cheers from the crowd every time he was running out.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was just great.
I love it.
He's a very important element to the feel-good factor around South African rugby right now.
It's one of the best things Razzie's done. Yeah. And Razzie's done a lot of good things.
It was making him captain. It was one of the more obvious ones.
Exactly.
Because he was already the leader.
He was just he was the only guy in that floundering team who was trying his absolute heart out, and he was so often under the posts after someone missed a tackle out wide and just hands on his head and just like think.
Then he would still pull off a great play the next phase. He was damn near Sergio Parisse.
He was, yeah. So it's it'll be impressive. He's been impressive every time, and it's exciting to have him back on the field in whatever capacity for the Western Province this time. But back in a Springbok jersey sooner than later, and he'll be ready for the World Cup.
Yeah. The other bit of news is not really news. It's just that I thought it was news because it was fun, and I had been calling it for years.
Yes.
And that is that Matthew Bastareaud, in his little period that he's going to be playing for Lyon until the end of the year, not the full season, he's been picked in a pre-season game at number 8. And I'm like,
finally,
he's always been a number 8.
Yeah, just play him there.
He's a good number. He's actually quite a quick number 8.
Yeah,
and a great breakdown player. And I just think this could be a new lease of life for the man.
Yeah,
he's been a number 8. He could be a more useful number 8 in the French squad than Louis Picamol.
Probably, possibly.
So I think finally he's found his calling at this late stage in his career. And
that's true. Well, he doesn't have to defend those very, very quick men at 13 anymore.
No.
Which is like,
and he's not also bringing an end to great attacking play by being in the 13 channel when he's a number 8.
Yes, indeed. It's always been a bit of a baffling one, but then trust Toulon to be mad.
And trust Lyon to come up with a solution, apparently.
There you go, yeah.
For them.
Lyon, we were throwing a bit of shade at them in the tail end of the top couture for just not being as exciting as your Clermonts or your Toulouses.
Well, they're exciting me now. They're putting Bastareaud 8. Awesome.
8, yes. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I wonder if that'll carry on into his American rugby career now that he's going off to rugby.
I'm curious. I wonder he may even have the freedom of New York to just say, I want to play where I want to play.
I want to play 10.
No, Matthew, no.
Crash balls all day. But then he keeps scoring. So you know it's bad play.
He's going to tear it up
running over
there.
4 people.
Yeah, he's going to wherever he plays, he's going to tear it up over there.
They will not handle him. They will not handle him. So that was. It's like it's a bit of a stretch to call it news, but it is news. Yeah,
I think it's news.
Newsflash. Bastareaud, always at number 8, and now finally he is one.
Yes.
Yes. And then other news, we have Namibia set to play 2 tests against the Southern Kings as part of their World Cup.
The Kings are bailing everybody out right now. They're playing a load of pre-season games against Tier 2 opposition, and Namibia didn't have any pre-World Cup games organised.
Right.
Namibia is a kind of a gas example. They've had 1 or 2 games, and we don't really know much about them, except we are to infer that they've improved. But geez, they just are frozen out of the Tier 2 circuit for a team that's on that level. They just don't have a competitive environment to play in, and it's a shame that they're only going to get a couple of games against the Southern Bleeding Kings.
Yeah, which is no prep at all.
It really isn't. But it is good that the Kings did that for them. The Kings are also going to go out to Georgia and play. They're going to fly out to Tbilisi to play Georgia for a game.
Awesome.
They're just good guys. Yeah, just good guys.
It's just really sound. Southern Kings.
They are Kings.
Yeah. Well, sure. I know that Leinster are playing Canada in a couple of weeks, isn't it? Or is it next week? It might be next week.
I don't know when. It could be next week, I think.
But yeah, it's good. It's good. Little clubs step up. It's good for Tier 2 sides to get that little bit of a challenge this side of, because it is, you do need a few hitouts for sure.
100%.
So that's definitely good news for Namibia, because it would have been just a shocking indictment of kind of just rugby's the have and the have-nots again if Namibia were going into the World Cup completely cold.
And to be fair, it's not like that's resolved by a couple of hitouts against the Kings.
It's not, but it is definitely improved, if not resolved.
There's another bit of news that I wanted to mention, which is that we didn't mention it in the All Black squad selection, but they've actually narrowed their squad. Steve Hansen has cut his squad by another 5. It includes the absences of Tuinu Kawafe, with the main headline absence, and Shannon Frizzell as well, who started at 6 against the Box.
You were saying last week how he's now got the 6 jersey. But,
now it's between debutant Jacobson and Vea Fafita, who has less than set the world alight. They're the 6s, unless you want to move Matt Todd to 6. Which is... It seems a very strange call, but Shannon Frizzell is gone, and I thought he's been great, so I just wanted to say a special goodbye to him, because I won't see him this side of the World Cup.
Sparring injury, it's a shame. It's a far cry from Jerome Kino. It's still... it's a questionable call.
It is,
It's a questionable call.
I think so. I just thought it was worth a mention.
Definitely worth a mention. But then the other news, which is kind of New Zealand-based news, is that they reported a monetary fiscal loss of 17 million for 2018.
Million, I think that's New Zealand dollars.
Right.
For the year 2018, that is.
After a 30 million surplus the year before due to Lions.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's they were trying to play it off as they always expect, losses after the Lions tour, and the Lions tour supplements everything, etc., etc. But I mean, that's a pretty big loss, and one of the things that they've been pointing to about it was the attendances at Super Rugby games, and there's just not a lot of... There's a definite drain that's going with the player drain from the country. There's a drain of money being invested in those clubs, fans turning out to see the games because the best players aren't at them. Super Rugby is losing its pomp. It's becoming less competitive with Europe, and very much seemingly a tier below almost the Champions Cup, definitely financially, but almost in terms of the public interest as well. You do see a fair few empty seats now throughout the course of a Super Rugby even
season.
in the Kiwi stadiums, which wasn't always the case. So there's that concern there, and definitely long term, the Nations League fell through. But something is going to have to be set up to make sure that our southern friends, not leaving behind our tier 2 friends as well, but there's quite a few rugby unions making a loss, and there's something is going to need to change. So while we might be relatively happy with the status quo, as it were, there are actually going to have to be some tinkerings to be done to make sure that everybody's getting
just let fair share. Buenos buy all the players.
Oh yeah. This is something. This is
part of it. Yeah,
he bears some responsibility for that, and Australia, I imagine, are as bad. And some of the blame for that lies on Bouchelel's doorstep. Not that he'd ever care.
I know, but it is a point. The player drain is exactly that, and it means you're siphoning the extra talent away from them,
and the interest and the money and everything.
It's one. They fall like dominoes when that it starts rolling. So that was it was a curious little bit of news, because you'd think obviously the All Blacks such an institution and stuff, but 17 million is quite a hefty loss to be taking in one fiscal year.
Yeah, when you consider that the Lions tour, which is supposed to subsidise everything, got them a profit of 30 million, that puts 1 year's 17 million loss. Like, that's more than half of those profits gone in a year.
Yeah, that's
so you got to be careful.
Something's got to change. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention the one point, because we had mentioned it last week, and I had said that this is kind of petty, but Sam Lousy and Cooper Vuna from Tonga came out last week and criticised publicly World Rugby for sanctioning them to play on the muddy pitch in that great game against Samoa in the mud. They were given out about the pitch. They thought it was a disgrace, and they were somehow pinning this on World Rugby, which I was just like, what are they supposed to do? They're putting the game to Samoa. That's exactly what it's supposed to be like. And it turns out I am 100% right. And not only am I 100% right, the World Rugby were more on the ball than I thought. I love criticising World Rugby when it's merited, but it just so wasn't here.
Yeah.
They actually looked at the weather ahead in Samoa, called the tournament organisers and the Samoan Rugby Union to say, look, it might be absolutely catastrophically bad weather in Apia next week. If you fancy moving the game down to New Zealand, we can do it. And there wasn't a more acceptable stadium in either of the islands that wasn't going to be affected by the weather.
Sure.
So it was like, we can move it down to New Zealand and play it on a dry track. And the Samoan Rugby Union said, no, we're happy to play it at home. We want to get the fans in with the game. We want to bring the game to Apia.
Yeah.
And that was fair enough. And
that's
the
exactly
ref sanctioned. The only thing is that the ref said that the pitch wasn't waterlogged and didn't call off the game. And the Samoans, unlike the Tongans, embraced the conditions, played a class game, and got a deserved win.
Got a big win in front of their home fans, which is, it all worked out. And
but those Tongan boys were talking brown when they were giving out about World Rugby. On this occasion, I'm right to defend them.
Yeah, no, for sure. In this one instance, they got it right, got it spot on. And then I suppose we'll just pivot to the Currie Cup.
We'll wrap it all up with the Currie Cup,
as we have been doing, because obviously there's been a lot of rugby going on. This has been a long enough show to break down a lot of games. I don't know how many games did we break down? 5, 6, 7? Seven games. But there was more going on, because the Currie Cup is the ever there under the radar going on in amongst all this international rugby. And the results from the weekend just gone. The Lions snuck a win against the Cheetahs, 24-22.
Came back from behind, as they love to do.
Yeah. The Pumas actually got a W against your beloved Sharks, 27-20.
I actually watched that game. The Sharks are not the force that they were with their Esterhazens on their arms in defence. I mean, they were pretty brittle. Yeah. They got a couple of quick fire tries that gave them a lead and then didn't score thereafter, and the Pumas deserved it. I mean, they were pretty tame. I think Kerwin Bosch had a good game, but in defence in particular, they were not what they should be. They're supposed to be big and strong and standing up, and they very weren't. But deserved their defeat. Yeah, and the Greekers continue to go from strength to strength and absolutely put a whooping on the Bulls. The Bulls were very annoyed by that one. Their coach is under fire. He came out and called it like a disgrace, an unacceptable disgrace from his players, that performance. Right. And it was all very disappointing. That's all dramatic. Well, 37-15 was what it was in Loftus Field. And the Bulls propping up the bottom of the table with 5 points accrued. The Sharks not doing much better on 6. But the Pumas have leapfrogged them into from the bottom of the table up to 7 points with the Western Province. And the Cheetahs are on 11. The Lions are on 13, which leaves the Greekas on top with 50. Yeah, I don't remember the Greekas ever winning a Currie Cup, but I think I'm kind of rooting for them now. I am now, well, after they put the whooping on the Bulls, then I'm kind of like... anyone who does that is a friend of yours. Yeah. Well, the Bulls just kind of deserve it when they play like that, you know? And they 100%. Do sometimes play like that. And then just whoever's playing them, I'm going like, go out and score that try. They're giving it to you. They kind of need the Ben Ryan treatment sometimes. They do. Bulls. Actually, Ben Ryan would be a great shout for the Bulls, to be honest. But... we get him there as official disciplinarian. Yes. Headmaster role. Give him a ruler to just slap the boys in the back of the head when they're not defending or switching off. Their brain just switches off for 90 seconds and then it's a try. So that's the Currie Cup. And is that... That's everything. Where are we at with the Currie Cup, though? Is that... Oh, I mean, it's still going. It goes on. How much longer do we have with it? A while. I mean, there's a playoff stage as well. Okay, yeah. So nothing's decided yet. No. But the Greekers are looking good. Lions are looking okay as well. And it's a competitive enough one. Actually, I like the Cheetahs. Hopefully the Cheetahs can make something. Yeah, I'd like that. For Pro 14 kinship now. Only recently established. But go on, the Cheetahs. Absolutely. So that's the crack.
And
the Mitre 10 Cup starts next week now as well. I'm not sure if we'll have time to cover that too.
Well, we may do something similar. Stick some results in the news segment. Because it is news. It is rugby news. Is the Mitre 10 Cup.
I'll give you that.
But yeah, with that, I suppose we'll wrap up another show in the books. This was episode 60.
Yeah, we knew it would be long. There was a lot to get through. We did our best to keep it as concise as possible. We did better in some than others, but we managed to get through it, and I think that's what's important.
Yes, indeed. And if anyone's stuck with us this long, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Yeah. And if you enjoyed, like we said at the title of the show, please subscribe, comment, bell, like, all that stuff. That lovely stuff.
Awesome.
But yeah,
share
the other thing. Yes,
the word
sharing is caring.
Sharing is great.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll be back next week to break down the games, the upcoming games, looking back on Rugby Championship and whoever wins it and all that, and the PNC as well. But yeah.
And don't forget to catch us on Unbiased Rugby at some stage this week. We'll be on talking about the England squad with him.
Yes, absolutely. So we're excited for that too. So yeah, busy times. But yeah, we'll see you next week, folks. Bye. Right, you want to go?
Yep.
Blue ball. Nice. Solid hit. Overthrown.
Mine was thrown with a bit of authority that time. I'll take that W.
Better than the last week.
Yes. Thank you.